understand so that we'll become better investors, better taxpayers and all that, better citizens. So this week, we're talking around topics of asset management, right? Economic uncertainty. Like, if you've been following the world of finance in the last, I would say in the last quarter or even this year, you would have seen the progressive rise in the price of gold, right? Price of gold. And usually, gold is looked at as an insurance asset class. So you don't buy gold because you want to basically get a dividend or you think that gold's going to go up in price. Gold is usually like bought like an investment protection or hedge. You have a portfolio of stocks or you have a portfolio of bonds or property and you think that the economy is going to go south. So essentially, you buy gold to protect or hedge that portfolio whilst you figure out really what the heck is going on, right? But gold has going up in price, I believe, this year and the end of say last year. I think the pickup started after the Russian invasion of Ukraine. And we're going to get into that, talk about maybe the history of what's going on, look at the historical numbers, what gold is doing vis-a-vis other asset classes, and then sort of ask ourselves this question: where should we be as investors? Should we be holding a commodity that pays no dividends? Should we be in an asset class like shares that do give us risk but allow us to say beat inflation over the long term? Or should we just hold a currency like the Naira, which is local, pays a very, very high rate of return in terms of interest that you would earn if you just put money in the bank, but might not be at a par if you're trying to compare that to now the exchange value of the dollar? So it's going to be three competing asset classes. And the idea is not to say go buy this or go sell this. Well, dude, everything we're doing here is all educational. We're not giving you investment advice, and we're not asking you to go buy or sell anything. But the idea is that when we talk around these topics, I think we get out nuggets, and with those nuggets allow us to then understand the markets better. And then when we understand the markets better, we then to become better investors. So like I said, let me share a chat with you, a slide with you guys. I'm going to share it on the tweet feed. So it's going to be the latest one I'll share. And what I want to put there is going to be the returns, right? The returns for all asset classes, if you may, right? From bonds to property. What has the return been for, like, in the past 5-10 years? So if you look at the latest post I just shared on my Twitter feed, you will see what I have up there. And again, guys, I'll do my quick 5-10 minutes, and of course you guys can request to speak if you want to speak. We're also on the YouTube. You can request to hop in there. We'll see your messages. Send a DM, request to speak, and I'll give you the mic, right? So if you take a look at what I just shared now on the on my Twitter feed, you will see the returns of asset classes. What we've done is a great chart from Morningstar. And it takes you through from 1 year to 3 years to 5 years to 10-year returns of these asset classes. And you can essentially see what asset class has done well over the years. And you can see the trend just developing right there, right? If you look at gold, these are all ETFs. Look at the gold price. This year alone, i.e. they're going as far as October the 9th, is up 54%. Up 54%, right? If you compare that with the US stock market, that's about up 15%. So big gap there. If you go down to REITs, REITs, that's, you see 2.9. So REITs are like properties here, property holdings. So gold has beaten stocks, gold has beaten small caps, has beaten property. If you go look at bonds, Morningstar is putting bonds at about 6.89. Gold is beating that also. If you look at the global markets excluding the US stocks, right? Excluding US stocks, that is up 27%. That is beating US markets, but gold is still coming up on top there. Then if you go down, you see all the reds. You see all the reds, 10-year treasury bond, 5-year treasury bond. It's all in the red, right? Treasury bills, all in the red. But curiously, if you look at commodities, which is your normal grain, maize, orange juice, it's really gold. It should be a commodity, but gold has just excelled out of that pack, and gold's at 54%, and commodities are doing about 10.60. So you see a different picture, right? You see that gold as an asset class, and it's gold and silver, have done pretty well in 2025 and also in 2024. And if you stretch that out, If you try to analyze that for the last 20 years, you're looking at gold at about 11%, right? That's over 20 years, ups and downs. And you look at US markets, stock markets, about 10%. Look at US small caps, about 8. Property, about 6. If you go to bonds, you're going negative about 3.41. So the numbers do back up what we're saying, that just in terms of return of the yellow metal, it has tended to do well. So why do stock prices go up? Because people are buying. So once you buy a stock or buy an asset class, or when there's demand for that asset class, prices tend to go up. So the second question is, why are the prices going up? Who is buying? And if we know who is buying, we can then see if it's going to be a bubble. If somebody's buying, we can sort of say, okay, this guy is buying and we know how much he has in his bank. So once he stops buying, then of course the buying pressure will fall and the prices would erode. Again, that's the problem that we then going to come across. Let me share the second slide I'm going to share with you guys. Again, the second slide I'm going to share is going to be who is buying gold. Because who is buying gold is going to give us an idea, right, of if this is a bubble or if this is going to be just a passing phase. Because gold has gone up in price before. It's not the first time gold has gone up in price, but let's look at who is buying. So again, on Twitter, I just shared that chart again on Twitter. Who is buying? If you look at central banks, and it's not just central banks, it's emerging market central banks. So you see China, you see India, massive buyers of gold in the past 1 year and all that. Big buyers of gold. And that supposes, especially China. When we see China buying a lot of gold, China had about 3 trillion. That's 3 trillion in foreign exchange reserves. And this is because China is a huge exporter. So China is able to export to the US. And because China exports to the US, China accumulates dollar reserves. So China had about 3 trillion US dollar reserves. Right now, China has dialed that back. So China is swapping its dollar reserves from dollars into gold. And because China is not buying to make a profit. So if you go back to the price of gold, you then start to see a problem in that if they're not buying to make a profit, then that tells you that this buying pressure that we're seeing is not going to recede very soon. I did post a chart earlier where India, if you look on Twitter, India's gold reserves has now surpassed about 100 billion monetary value. And this is because of two things. India was buying every month last year, literally every month was buying gold. And also the price of gold has also gone up. So the price of gold in India, held by the central bank, has gone up more than exceeding 100 billion. That's a significant figure, right? So what you then see globally is that central banks are accumulating gold. And because central banks are the ones doing the buying, that sort of tells you that this buying pressure is not going to be built on, am I going to run out of money or am I buying on profitability? Look at it this way. When you want to buy a stock or an asset, you're looking at the fundamentals of that stock and you're saying, okay, is the price cheaper and can I buy? But now you're essentially buying that stock, or the central banks are buying that stock because they want to replace an asset, which is a dollar. So because they don't work with profit and loss margin, that's not the number one thing in the back of their minds. They're not going to be too worried about the cost price of gold. So that gives gold a buyer that's going to be consistent at any price to buy. So keep that in mind. Now let's come to why central banks are buying, and this is also obviously going to factor into what we're saying. Central banks are central banks are buying gold because when Ukraine or when Russia invaded Ukraine, the Americans, I think in hindsight, made a big strategic error in freezing the foreign reserves of Russia. So when Nigeria has foreign reserves, you don't keep it in Lagos. The Ghanaian foreign reserves are not kept in Accra. Same with Russian foreign reserves are not kept in Moscow. They are kept in the US, really. And the central bank in New York, the Federal Reserve Bank in New York, keeps most of the gold for most of the foreign nations that bank in the US, as because the dollar is the currency of reserve and all that. But when the US froze the foreign reserves of Russia, the message that people took away from that was that if you keep dollars or if you keep gold in the US, it can be frozen, especially if you keep dollars. the US can freeze it. They took Russia off the SWIFT. This is not to say who was right or wrong. We're not saying who was right or wrong in the invading. The point is it was frozen. And because it was frozen, many nations then said, we have to have a plan B. What if tomorrow we get into a trade dispute with the US and the US also comes and freezes our gold assets or our dollar assets? So we said so this huge surge to buy gold then started. And you've seen China, because, I mean, let's be real here. China is looking at Thailand. And of course, China is saying, whatever they're going to do to Russia, they're going to do to us. So China's now committing on this gold. Same thing with India. India is very, very unipolar. They also accumulating a lot of gold. So those two guys and other countries, you can see Poland doing a lot of gold buying. I think one of the only countries I've seen not buying gold really, it's Switzerland. Switzerland is selling down its own gold reserves and doing something else, which is interesting. So that's where we are. We have a market where the dollar is losing its reserve status. It's not going to lose its status. The dollar is going to be around for a long time, guys. So there's no danger of the US dollar being replaced tomorrow or in a decade. But I think we're at the beginning of the beginning, right? Because now people are looking for alternatives. And it's not just the enemies of America looking for alternatives. You know, before we've had the Iran, Russia, China looking for alternatives. But now you have even the friends of America looking for an alternative to say, hey, we want to diversify our foreign currency away from just holding dollar reserves. So yes, we're going to hold reserves because we want to export, but we're not going to hold just dollars. And if you look at the chart I've shared earlier, you can see the returns for gold. It's just been astronomical. And the point is that because central banks are the ones buying, then the buying pressure is not driven by fundamentals. Not that central banks don't follow fundamentals, but there's a strategic reason why China is buying. They're not buying gold because it's cheap. They're buying gold to diversify. The same with India. So those two guys keep on buying, and China has 3 trillion or had 3 trillion in foreign reserves before all these issues started. You can see the amount of ammunition that China can bring to the table to buy. So that sort of lays down maybe the framework for our discussion today. So the question I will go back is, what should we do? There's uncertainty. If you look at the US market, the stock market look good. You can see the stock market return there at about 10%. Looks good. But that's driven by just the Mag 7. So the top 7 companies are the ones driving this return. The AI spending, you know, Microsoft, Google, those are the guys driving the returns on the US market. It's not a broad-based rally in the US market. The dollar is very, very weak. You look at the returns that they're paying on the dollar, still about 4.3, even with the tariffs. Lots of uncertainty. Last week, we saw what happened. 2 tweets by Trump, market went up, markets came down. So there's a lot of uncertainty. So there's lots of people looking at, can I just wait out Trump in gold? And that's also what's driving the market. So that leads us to that question this evening. What is a good bet for us? Stay in Naira, stay in dollars, or move to gold? And we've got a great guy to talk around that with. We're going to start with Olumide. Olumide is going to give us his own intake. If you guys know Olumide, you should follow him. Great voice on financial markets, covering many markets. So Olumide, welcome in. I try to lay out sort of the picture with folks why gold is rising, given not the historical and even present day data, and the reasons why gold is going up. The point I'm making is that this time is a bit different. You know, when we had the market crash in 2007, gold went up in price, but that was a market reaction, right? Same to the depression, a market reaction. But this time you have a sovereign central bank, China, India, folks buying gold. So, Bolinde, what's your take on what we've talked about so far? Olumide? Not sure if you can hear me. Okay, while Olumide is getting ready. So I have a lot more directions I want to take this conversation to once Olumide gives us his opening remarks. But let me get Abua. Abua, real quick. Olumide is going to come back in. Abua, real quick. What's your take on my opening?
Yeah, guys. My take is, I think we should move to gold because gold. I am Kalu.
Yes, Olumide, I can hear you. Abua was just making a comment. Do you want to just hear him out, and then we'll come to you real quick?
Sorry about that.
Oh, no worries. Yeah. Abua, go ahead. You are saying we should move to gold.
Yes, we should move to gold because gold is it's the real thing. You know, for me, I believe I don't understand financial stuff really, but when you talk about solid stuff like gold, money can be printed, but gold it cannot be. I don't think you can manufacture gold. Actually, either you have it somewhere or not. So my own suggestion is to move to gold. That's it.
Okay, and when you say we, you talk about the individual or the government. Who is we?
The government, even the individual, you can buy gold and keep. That's why instead of having your Naira or having your money in US dollars.
US dollars, buy gold. Okay, we're going to come back to if there's enough gold, but let me get Olumide to jump in. Olumide, you had our first guy there. Hey, he wants us to go to gold. Gold pays no dividends. Go ahead, Olumide.
Yeah, thanks, Kalu. Very great space as usual, and I was so delighted to hear your analysis because you pinpointed most of the things I wanted to say. So I'm going to give a different dimension from a market perspective. Good evening to everyone here, and also I think you need to have a flexible mindset in this space because it's mostly going to be educational, and you have your own perspective to take at the end of the day. So for me, if you look at what Kalu said, I totally agree, spot on. You talk about central bank buying pressure, why gold is at its best run. Silver also is at its best run since 1980. That's 45 years ago. The last time gold had that run, we are seeing it's been many decades. So the question is, why are this happening and what does it mean to the currency market? So not far-fetched, not to waste your time with theoretical and jargons, financial jargons. I'll tell you three things. First of all, we have debt crises around the world. You know, I'm sure many of you are hearing what's happening in France, you're hearing what's happening in the United States, you're hearing what's happening in Asia. So we have debt crisis. So the debt credibility in the market is almost at an all-time low. So at some point, bookmakers are expecting sovereign risk crisis, even in emerging markets, talk less of places like Africa. Then you also look at increased central bank buying gold, which Kalu really spoke on. So I'm not going to speak more on that. That also really increased buying pressure, particularly if you look at the fact that countries like China, India are also diversifying the risking from fiat currency. That also played a huge role. Then you also look at the fact that the world printed so much money. We have so much money in circulation, asset, but if you look at most asset classes right now, they're almost at the all-time. From equities, though you look at blue chip stocks like the Magnificent Seven, you back to Nigeria and come back. So it's generally, there's so much currency circulation, and that has really put a lot of portfolio managers. So the risking that they believe that putting certain allocation in gold make a lot of sense. Now, coming back to all those things, the question is, which do you hold? I think if you look at this year and you look at past year, from my own point of view, I think it makes sense as a Nigerian to have all exposure in all the three. And I'll tell you why. So if you look at Nigeria, for example, even the CBN, they spoke increasingly on buying gold. And if you look at the asset upgrade last year, you could see gold really helped the CBN total. I'm talking of gross asset. So gold really has been anti-inflationary and also has helped countries like Nigeria in terms of increasing the value of their net reserves and their foreign exchange reserves because Nigeria has the substantial amount of gold. And I also feel that if you look at the aspect that gold has its own disadvantages because gold doesn't offer interest rates. Yes, it has almost doubled in the last 3 years. But if you look at it with other asset classes, you tend to wonder whether it's a smart move to just be on gold. Don't forget that gold is the most valuable financial asset in the world. I'm talking about as an asset class. Gold is more valuable to the crude oil market. Gold is more valuable than Bitcoin. You know, so gold is the most valuable asset class. We look at it individually. However, you know, it's kind of difficult for you to hold a sizable amount of gold without carrying a cost. You know, for example, if I know Kalu keeps a sizable amount of gold, it poses a security risk because other thieves who can get to rob him. He needs to move from one point to point. He needs to spend a lot on bullion because these things don't come cheap. And if you look at the country like Germany, for example, Germany keeps their gold in the United States. So you need to understand the of this market.
Go ahead, Olumide. Someone's speaking. Go ahead.
So did I interrupt?
Yes, you are. Just hold on, please. Olumide, go ahead.
Yeah. So the current for me that have been outside the country for a long while, I'll say that holding the dollar is not really so much of a smart move. Not because the dollar has been devalued. If you look at it from a span of 5 years compared to where it was, but from a point of the fact that we are entering a phase where currency stability is coming at a record high. If you look at the dollar index is what you measure the strength of the US dollar against 6 major currencies like the euro, the British pound, the Swiss krona, krona, the Swiss franc, the British pound sterling. That's just almost 8%. That's kind of, and the reason because of the tariff issue Trump is having and the fact that China is reducing exposure in US debt, despite the fact that US still is the safest market. Now, the problem we have right now is that there are no options. Like if you see what's happening in France, for example, debt to GDP is almost double. The government prime minister is changing like tissue paper. We're having also issues in other markets in terms of expansionary programs that is not hit middle class. And you also see that has affected immigration. So America still remains the best bet, but America also is not in a good shape. So I feel that for those that really held currencies nakedly, I think they will not do well. If you look at the Nigerian stock market, for example, there are about 8 stocks that are done at least 300%, year to date. So keeping your funds in Naira-denominated assets, not directly on Naira, you might have done better than those that kept in the US dollar. And if you look at those that kept in the US dollar.
Bolum, they are talking about the index, just to be clear. An individual stock versus an index, just to clarify that point. 300% is one stock. So that's one stock.
Yes, one stock. If you look at the index, actually also look at the index. The index has performed inflation rate. If you look at the real rate, it's positive. The Nigerian All-Share Index in the last 5 years have done impressively better than the S&P 500. But if you look at it on currency, if you adjust it with currency, definitely you won't. The S&P definitely will be much better because of the S&P performance, particularly this year and last year, has been very astronomical. Particularly if you look at the big players like NVIDIA. So yeah, I think the question is where you keep your money nakedly on the dollar, nakedly on Nigeria now, nakedly on gold. Because if you look at BlackRock gold, if you look at gold ETFs, like if you look at the iShares, popular ETFs, where people keep money, I think also it has done decently well. I think the problem we're having right now is that a lot of people focused on just one asset blindly and lose opportunity. For me, for example, or the top people can ask me what asset class would I hold. I'll say I hold the 3. And I'll tell you why I held the 3, because I felt that at some point I was very worried about the fact that the world printed so much money. And also I did not want to miss on the reforms enacted by President Bola Tinubu, because I believe the Nigerian stock market was at a record low and things were so cheap when you compare, when you look at the P ratio, when you look at the position of the market and you look at the position of the Nigerian economy, despite the fact that we still have micro issues, I think we have bottom. So I was placing so much bet in Nigerian stock. Also, US stocks have been my own safety net for a long period. I've held US stocks for more than 10 years, for example. So stocks like Google, Meta has improved my valuations astronomically, and that's because America tends to be the best place in the world that has options. So, Kalu, I think the question should be, what percentage should you hold in each asset class? Because I think they all make sense. The question people have is that they want to be expert, they want to get the best of each of one. I think it's almost impossible.
Okay.
The area we are right now.
All right, and just to come back to the dollar and the gold. If you look at, I think I just shared one last tweet now. If you look at the gold, if you decide to even go to gold, it's not enough. It's not enough. I just shared a tweet now. Look at the last tweet there. Gold is just 6%, just 6% of the total, if you want to call it currency in circulation. Bitcoin is 1%. If you compare that to, let's just say, bonds is 37%, shares are 49%. So just even if we just all agree that we're all going to go into gold, it's simply not enough. There's simply not enough gold to fund anything in the world, because that means there's going to be no more quote unquote printing. If you don't print currency, you don't have inflation. But then where do you get the money for to do transactions? We're already in a debt economy. So to go back and deleverage from a debt economy, that might cause some problem. But let's get Cashware HQ. Olumide, please hang in there for us. Cashware HQ, how are you doing?
Oh, great. Kalu, thanks again. Always an interesting space. I think you've made some valid points. Today the trust in US financial system or the Western financial system is really in decline, massively in decline. And in periods of uncertainty, nation states and corporates and even individuals, they look for safe haven, they look for places to just store value. And somehow it seems, for decades, for centuries, gold has always played this role effectively. And that's what we're seeing today. People are looking for safety in gold, and not just digital gold. They are acquiring the assets. I even read something recently that some countries are now looking at repatriating the gold that is in the West to their own borders, their own country, within their countries. I may look for that. When I get that resource, I will drop that on the chat.
I know Venezuela did that a long time ago, but when you do that, then you can easily convert to get cash. If you hold gold in your house and you need dollars, then you have to take the gold back to New York to get dollars. But go ahead, sir.
Yeah, so countries are, and even based on, recently Netherlands did a strike on China when they seized their chip markets. They are one of the making ventures in Netherlands. So the trust is really in decline, and people, smart nations are diversifying. Africans are already playing in the role. Ghana is already investing massively in gold. Burkina Faso has been doing that since the new military administration took effect. Even Nigeria is already accumulating gold. So Africans are waking up to the reality that, man, once you're in the bad books of the West, you can lose your reserves.
But if you look at the Nigerian gold holdings, it's nothing. If you say we're waking up, Nigeria's gold holdings are nothing. It's less than about 1.6 billion. I think that's what we hold. About 27 million tons. So 27 tons is nothing.
Yeah, the interesting thing is we have the resource. Nigeria has gold, so it's not like we are.
But we don't have it. If we don't have it, we don't have it. Like my father has money, but he's at home, and I'm on a club. So do I have money?
Yeah, since the gold is within the country, so it's just to.
It's not as easy. There are bandits there.
Yeah, go as that. Yeah.
There are bandits there.
Yeah. The way I'm driving at is, at least that consciousness is beginning to come in. Africans are now becoming conscious of the fact that, man, we need to accumulate gold.
I don't think so. I'm not arguing with you. I'm just pushing back a bit, just for us to have a conversation. Yeah. I'm just saying that I don't think it's. If you look at the holdings, the largest African holding is Algeria, 173 tons. That's the largest. Libya 146, Egypt 120, Ghana, that's Gold Coast, is only 31 tons. It's the 31 tons that move their currency to be one of the best in the world. So I'm just saying that Nigeria is about 21 tons. 21 tons, if you convert that to dollars, is about 1.6, call it 2 billion today. So Nigeria has about 2 billion in gold. Nigeria is borrowing 2 billion. I think we just borrowed 2 billion just last month. So if you look at it, you are right that we have a lot of gold in Zamfara and Kebbi. We have a gold in Osun. But if we don't have a program where we can get that gold, the CBN can buy that gold, and then we can actually put that gold in the reserves in Lagos or New York, do we really have that gold? It's like crude oil. Nigeria is the largest exporter of crude oil, but you and I know that we're doing about 1.6, 1.8 million barrels. We were doing 2 million barrels in 2025. Now we're at 1.6. We're celebrating 1.8. So are we really an oil exporting country? Again, not debating your point, just giving context.
Yeah. So the
Cashware, I think you're off a bit. I'm not hearing you. If you can hear me, Cashware, I'm not hearing him. Cashware, go ahead.
I think it's just fault in it. That consciousness is already is alive now. The world is now alive to the fact that you need to hold these assets. I would say for individuals, it's difficult to accumulate gold, physical gold. I would rather, not financial advice, but I would rather say we should look into the digital form of gold, which is, in my opinion, which is Bitcoin.
It's not the same thing. It's not the same thing. It's not the same thing.
No, it actually.
It's not the same thing. China is not buying Bitcoin. China is buying gold. There's a big difference.
No, I'm saying for nation states, gold, what's happening now? You see in the West, especially in the US, they are taking positions, especially in Bitcoin. You see most of these Bitcoin ETF companies, they're taking positions. While other nations are just still observing, they're already taking positions.
Okay.
Right? So
I get you. Let's get someone else to hop in here real quick. Let's get Tuluberry. Cashware, let's get Tuluberry to hop in. Tulu, you've had Cashware.
Yeah, I can. Happy Sunday.
That's my default. Nation states keep on accumulating good.
Okay. Thanks so much.
Kalu, happy Sunday.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak. If you remember, I've been hammering on gold and silver each time I come to your space, and you give me the opportunity to speak. And I don't know if anybody acknowledges that, but the whole of my tweet on this Twitter has always been about the need to go to sound money.
If I hold gold, what's my advantage? If I in Nigeria today take 100,000 naira and buy gold, what's the advantage I get?
Okay, so gold is a financial asset. It's not a currency. So what you're going to do is you're going to do a personal financial planning for yourself. Any money you don't need in the next 3 or 6 months, you can hold that in gold and you can liquidate it. While I was in Nigeria, I used to go to Tejo Show, just opposite NTA Channel 5. There are lots of gold sellers there and very divisible amounts in form of pendant, in form of necklace. If you take your gold there, they are going to give you instant transfer, instant cash. So I believe everyone wants to hold the currency that kind of hold waters, right? Because of the prevailing inflation, and it's going to get worse. And that's why, investors are now swinging to gold. So let me give a little bit of background. First of all, gold is money. Money was anchored on gold until 1971. And after 1971, all money, all currency all over the world was anchored against the US dollar. So, which is fine. There's no problem with that. But the unfortunate situation is that the physical and monetary situation of the US is giving a lot of people concern. Secondly, the global debt. All countries are now printing money that are going into debt, which means that they are diluting the money in your hands. So I have this unconventional opinion that I'm still thinking through. I don't know if it's something that is going to hold waters. The government itself wants people to go to gold, but the market is refusing.
What government?
All government all over the world.
How can they want people to go to gold? Gold restricts deficit spending, and the governments want to spend deficits.
Yeah, so this is what they're going to do. Government wants everyone to go to gold because if you remember in 2021 in Basel, they moved gold from Tier 3 assets to Tier 1 which means that it is not equal to bond and physical cash. That's one. In July this year, they made gold a reserve in banks, which means that
it's always been like that.
No, it has not always been like that.
No,
there was a new regulation by Basel.
I hear
July,
you.
Yeah, on July 4th. So let me just land here. So the Taiwan asset, they make it a capital reserve for banks, which means that at some point they are going to revalue gold and place stable coins. That's where the divisibility is going to come.
Yes, but you haven't answered the question I'm asking. Why would they want you to go to gold when gold means that they can no longer print? It's like, look at Nigeria. If you say Nigeria as an example, if we go to gold, we can no longer print Naira. Do you think if you are the president, would you say you want a CBN you cannot print Naira from?
Okay, let me explain that, Kalu. That's a very good question. And I want you to understand that there's a paradigm shift in how we've known things to be in the past decade. The answer to your question is that if they revalue gold, right, the debts of these countries are not actually the problem. It is the interest payment and the opportunity cost of those interest payments, what they could have used that money to do in terms of building infrastructure, social security, and all of that, rather than using to pay interest. So what they're going to do is they're going to revalue gold to about maybe $50,000. Then they're going to use that gold to pay down the debt. That way, they're going to reduce the interest payments. And that's very beneficial. The debt can never go away. These countries are not even paying the principal. They are paying only the interest. So their concern is when we revalue gold, and that's what I'm saying, the government is...
But you're not answering the question I'm asking you. When you have a fiat system, the central banks can print deficit financing. So Nigeria can print money and build Coastal Road. When you have a gold-backed system, the central bank can no longer print currency. I'm asking you, why will the government want to go to a gold-backed system, which means it can no longer print unless it collects taxes? Which government would agree to that it cannot print money? Which government do you know in the world will agree to this?
Okay, Kalu, I acknowledge what you just said, because under the gold standard, you can't expand money. There's no monetary expansion under gold. I agree. But what I'm saying is that the paradigm shift we are going into is to reduce interest payment. That way, there's new money for you to build things. It's a reverse money expansion, which means that, okay, let's say I owe 1 million and I'm paying 100,000 every year, right? I owe on 10%. I'm paying 100,000 every year. Now I have an asset. I have revalued the asset from say 10,000 to 500,000, which means that I'm not using that 500,000 to reduce the 1 million debt, which means that my interest payment now will not be 50,000 because my debt has been reduced to half. My interest payment will now be reduced to half. So the other 50,000 I use it to build infrastructures. So it's more or less like money creation.
Yeah,
do you understand what I'm saying?
No, I understand what you're trying to explain, but I'm still saying there will be a new, again, just example, there will be a new coastal road. Even if you reduce the debt today in Nigeria to zero, where will they get the money for the other coast road from Sokoto to Badagry? They still have to print.
To pay interest.
They will
Our interest is almost equal to revenue in Nigeria.
That is not. I don't want to hold the mic up too much. That's not. That's incorrect. Nigeria sells how much in crude oil? How much Nigeria paying debt? Total Nigerian foreign debt payments about 1.5 billion.
It's almost equal to revenue, if not more. From the last time I checked,
it's about 40%.
So that 40%, you use it to do something else.
I hear what you're saying, but I'm asking you for a country like the US. Maybe Nigeria is easy for you. Japan is 200%, right? Debt to GDP. US is more than 100%. Where will they get 100% revenues from? Where will they get it from? They are never going to agree to what you're saying.
This is why all central banks all over the world are buying gold. They are going to revalue gold between now and next year. That's what I'm telling you. They're going to revalue gold.
It can't happen. Again, look at the last chart I shared. I mean, again, I'm just saying that there's gold makes up 6% of the global credit, quote unquote, credit in the economy. 6%. To replace 6% with 47%, which is bond is 37%. if you make gold triple the price, it still doesn't take it from 6 to 37. So we're going to take gold, the value of the gold to $50,000, and that will replace U.S. Treasury bond holders. Nigeria holds U.S. Treasury bonds, so that U.S. will give us gold. I don't think I hear the point, but I think the numbers still need some time to percolate. But let's get Ifeanyi to come in here. Tolu, thank you so much. Ifeanyi, Anthony, you've got the floor.
I'll stay on the mic.
Perfect. Ifeanyi, how you doing? Go ahead, please. Olumide, just for Olumide, what's your take really on this share of dollar, gold, Bitcoin? Do you listen to that last tweet I just shared? Olumide, I'm not sure you can hear me. Malam Batiside, did I get that right? Malam Batiside.
Yeah, Mr. Kalu.
How you doing? Yes.
I mean, what an interesting topic you have up there. I just thought I should keep my 2 cents in as well. Yeah. I mean, so gold is gold. I mean, it is safe haven asset, and obviously it's the best time to talk about it because there's so much uncertainty in the world now. And of course, when there's uncertainty like that, you can't predict how things will go. I mean, when you have a Trump that today he wants to give Tomahawk missiles to Zelensky, and tomorrow he's calling up Putin to schedule a meeting. Next tomorrow he's tweeting about China taking a very tough stance. Then the next day saying China will be fine. So all these things are just they will almost drive. But I'm just saying that look, gold is essential during the period of the uncertainty. The way we have it. But of course, there's an opportunity cost. It's a non-yielding asset. You don't get interest income. You don't get dividend. So that's what you give up for the safe-haven assets. But I mean, like people have said, you can almost bet that it will not drop in value somehow. But I still kind of feel that with the current, what gold did last week, I feel like it was overbought somehow, and there will be some sort of price correction. So if you are not very liquid and you're not in need for the long haul, you might want to be careful.
So if that's the thing, honestly speaking, when this gold thing started, I think it was in January, I was of the opinion that gold was a bubble and that it was just a reaction to the Trump tariffs. If you take that position now, I mean, momentum, you would have been wrong. Just by way of momentum, you would have been wrong because gold has just kept on going up. I don't see anything today stopping gold. If you look, there are some videos online where you see India, Singapore, there are lines of people lining up to change their currency to get gold. I think it's a country, I don't know what country, I think it was New Zealand or so, that still has this. You can exchange currency for gold.
I saw that.
So all those people are driving demand. And why is their demand being driven? Again, because like I said, the guys buying gold today are not buying gold based on fundamentals. It's the central bank of China. China had 3 trillion. If China just says, okay, I want to take $1 trillion and move to gold, well, that's 1 trillion. How much is the gold bar? It's less than $5,000. They don't care about the price they're buying it. So maybe the cutoff point is when will they stop? Because if we know how much China wants to buy, then we know where the price will get. But we don't know how much China wants to buy. So what I'm trying to say is this.
I don't think they will stop. You know why they will not stop?
They
because of Russia and the sanction that came after they invaded Ukraine. Right? So people are learning not to totally depend on US.
Good point. But again, look at it this way. If China buys gold, what happens to the Chinese currency? What do you think happens to Chinese currency if China buys gold?
If China buys gold,
what happens to Chinese currency?
I just think about it in terms of USD. I know that there's an inverse relationship between dollars and gold.
So what will happen if China buys gold? What do you think will happen? It will go up. If China buys gold,
of course, the value of gold, the price of gold will go up.
No, I'm saying to the Chinese currency. What happens to the Chinese currency when China buys gold? It will go
should
up.
fall.
No.
I only think in terms of USD.
It will go up. If Nigeria buys gold, the Naira will go up. If China buys gold, the gold yuan price will go up. The problem is that China does not want a strong yuan because they are an exporter. If the yuan is too strong, they can't export to the US anymore because then the flat screen TV will now cost the same as a flat screen TV made in the US. So Americans will simply buy TVs from the US. You see the point I'm making? So at a point, they have to reduce the currency value of the yuan. They can devalue. And if you devalue today, America will tag you a currency manipulator and sanction you. So Vietnam and the rest have gone through that and all. So the point, at a point, they have to stop. They can't keep on making their currency stronger by buying gold, which is where we have to then say that the risk is that if you go and buy gold tomorrow, and they want to stop next week, then musical chairs have stopped, the music has stopped, and you don't have a chair to sit down on. That's just my fear. I would like to buy gold, but I'm just afraid that if I buy it tomorrow, then I don't have anyone to sell it to. And if I keep it in my portfolio at 4,800, it's going to be just a big, big drag on my portfolio earnings forever. That's just my fear. I wish I'd bought it at 2, but if I didn't buy it at 2, why am I buying it at 4? That's just, I don't know.
I don't think it's going all the way to 5,000. That's what most analysts are saying before the end of the year.
Olumide, what's your take? Is gold going to get to 5,000, 6,000? I saw Professor Heinke said 6,000. I see many analysts are saying 5,000. What's your take, Olumide? Where is gold going
Someone even said 10,000. I mean, because people, it's something that everybody, there seems to be a consensus around gold being the asset that everybody goes to when there's a lot of uncertainty. And everybody believes that, and that's what is driving the momentum. But what's this price relative to the perceived fair value? Because some analysts are also talking around what should be the fair value of gold, given all the parameters now and all of that. But then we can talk about Naira.
Go for it.
I think Naira, in terms of Nigeria, so I think in the long run, Naira wins.
Naira wins. That's an interesting topic.
In the long run, yeah, and I will tell you what I mean by that. But there are conditions. If tomorrow we get, a government that becomes, more prudent in terms of spending, and really want to look after the most important things that should be done to move this economy forward.
Yeah,
we have all it takes, at least relative to the dollar.
Okay.
For Naira to fight back. For example, we have a local refinery, Dangote. We have another one coming up. That's a huge plus because if we make that work, at least even if you are selling at the same price, we are not going to be the import bill is going to come down, significantly. And then when you look at the tax rework as well, it should give some sort of support to the government in terms of spending and then less deficit. So I think that when you look at all of these variables in the hands of very prudent and very more organized government,
I like how
Naira should do well.
I like how you're caveating. So next year is an election year. Next year, so all the spending next year is going to, what's going to happen next year with the budget. So you think with all that spending, the Dangote refinery, the tax will sort of balance out the spending we're going to see from elections for 2027.
That's why I said there's a condition to it.
So if I give you,
if someone can get in people who can just be more serious about governance.
Gotcha. Let me ask you a question as we leave. If I give you 10 million naira, share it for me. Dollar, Naira, gold. Share 10 million naira for me. Dollar, Naira, gold.
3 million will go to Naira. 5 million will go to gold, and 2 million will go to dollars.
Interesting. You're going to put half your portfolio in an asset class that doesn't pay any dividends, but will just rise in price.
I'm telling you, that's what I would do.
Yeah, I mean, no, I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm just emphasizing that point. Okay, interesting. All right, super. Let's get. I hear you. Super. Olumide, I don't know where it went. Let's get Abuchi. Olumide, hi. Yeah. So I'll ask him the question. What do you think about this? Where do you think gold goes to? I mean, I'm not a soothsayer, but where do you think gold goes to? Professor Hank is 6,000. I'm hearing 5,000. This guy said 10,000. What's your take?
I think there will be a pullback. I think for me, the things that, like you mentioned, fundamentally, the key things that are driving gold are away from the normal central bank primarily, and the fact that there are so much money in circulation. But if you look at from a technical perspective, the fact that gold broke above the 4,000 and has been on the 4,002, it's probably likely it gets to 4,500 at some point, or worst case scenario, gets to 5. But what I'm saying, there will be a pullback. There are 3 reasons. If you look at what happened to Bitcoin some weeks back, it was losing about 23,000 in the span of 1 hour. It tells you that the market is washed with too much leverage.
Yeah.
I think the hitting is too much. From technical analysis, I think the speed at which it broke those levels was too fast. So I think for gold to sustain that level of what people are saying 5, 6, 10, which is probably, I think it needs to correct itself. So I'm expecting a pullback. But my worst case scenario, I think in the midterm, it's about 3,500. But it's all dependent on how Donald Trump is. If Donald Trump becomes less dramatic in this space, because the US is still the most influential country in the world global market. I think if the tariffs are becoming less dramatic, gold definitely will pull back at those levels. But if it carries out with that China trade, then it will be a matter of when gold will break that 4,005. So that's my perspective. So I think I'm betting more. But I'd rather bet more on the dollar than gold. That's why my
let me give you the conspiracy theory in America. Do you want to? Should I give it to you?
Okay.
So who has the highest gold holders in the world?
The US. Last time I checked.
Okay. So if you cause uncertainty, if you have a president that goes around and today he will invade, he will say he supports this, doesn't support this, does this, doesn't support this, what will happen to the dollar?
Very typical. So I know where you're going. Definitely dollar. It depends. So for example, if you look at right now, even though bad news are happening around America, the dollar has been strengthening relatively. And that's because other places are worse. Like I mentioned, look at what's happening in France, look at what's happening in Britain, look at what's happening in China.
I hear you. So, I hear you. I'm just saying that, the United States has 8,000 tons of gold.
Yeah, they have the
highest in the whole world. The book value of that gold, just the book value. This was this is since Second World War. It's 11 billion. Second World War. When they bought the gold, they put the gold at 42 an ounce. $42 an ounce. Today, gold is how much? Nearly 5,000. Okay, if Donald Trump and Mr. Tim Bassett mark their gold to market, what happens to the dollar? What will happen? What will happen to the balance sheet of America?
To be positive.
So
they sell gold.
So no, not sell, just market to market. They're not going to sell it. They just basically say, hey, we bought this gold at $42. Now gold has gone to $5,000. So we're going to reflect 5,000 on our balance sheet. What happens to the balance sheet of America?
No, from a perspective that is the positive, but can't be positive, but can't be
I'm not asking the question. People want to learn from you. So I'm asking so you answer. So I'm just saying. So if okay, so if it's positive, so the balance sheet now on the asset side used to have a negative because America's liabilities now are more than the assets, right? So they're okay. Yeah. Now, if you then put, how many billion will you now have? If you put 5,000 times 4 times 8,000 tons, what would you revalue it to? So what happens to now your bank balance? So suddenly, if you could no longer borrow money from the bank because your gearing ratio was high, and now you introduce a new asset to the market that has a very, very high asset value, it reduces your gearing ratio, which means that the amount of money that you can borrow the capacity to borrow in America will simply go up. What does that mean? That means America can spend without debt ceiling.
Yeah.
He can do all that.
Yeah.
So people are saying that this is the plan all along to cause uncertainty so that gold prices go up, so that America can revalue the assets. And with the revalued assets, he can basically not US government is shut down today. What does it mean the government is shut down? The government is shut down is because they cannot pass a budget. America hasn't passed a budget since 1991, I believe. Okay, with this new revaluation, the US Fed is now able to borrow money without a budget or without authorization. They can expand their balance sheet excessively.
Yeah, but Kalu, honestly, I think what's happening by America is basically just fiscal elementary.
So you don't think this is a conspiracy that has legs? You don't think it?
Okay. Because if you look at debt ceiling, for example, how many countries apply debt ceiling? You know, if debt ceiling was applied in France and everything, the whole country would have gone underground. Or if it was applied in Nigeria to the fullest. So I feel that that conspiracy for me, I think, is much more complex than they have simpler options for them. But personally, I think the biggest winner in gold, to be honest with you, are the Swiss. And that was why Trump wanted to place the tariff on gold, and he understood the effect to have. So he kind of changed his mind. Because if you look at historically how the Swiss have been able to monetize that asset class, you know, one of the greatest producers of gold in the world is South Africa, Australia. At no time was it Switzerland, but Switzerland has been the hub of safe haven asset, and they've been able to monetize gold. That's why one of the biggest banks when it comes to gold trading is UPS. So I feel personally that America stands in gold will always stay, and America is not on that trade. I don't think Donald Trump, despite the fact that he enjoys a weaker dollar, because personally I think Donald Trump likes a weaker dollar because it's helping US companies make more money overseas. You don't know that export is cheap, because I don't understand why Donald Trump is so dramatic.
But only I'm just saying. I'm saying that the guy is not stupid. No, whatever we want to say of the guy, he's not stupid. He will wake up today and tweet. He's tweeting Tomahawk today, and he's tweeting no Tomahawk tomorrow. So and I mean, the gold is in Fort Knox. If you reprice it, it allows these guys to borrow a lot. So I'm just saying, I'm just putting it out there. But let's come back to let me have Abuchi.
You know, the US government, for you to borrow, you have to go through Congress. You can't just do that.
You're making my point, which is the point I'm making. Let me do that. With the gold revaluation, they don't need to go to Congress. They have a loophole in America that you can spend or you can borrow on gold without going to Congress. There's a loophole like that. That's the point I'm making, Lumide.
I don't think we have a problem. You know, the most important market in the world is the bond market, the US Treasury market. Because, for example, you're going to make the bond market, US bond market, less attractive.
No, why would it be less attractive? There's something. Why would it be less attractive? I mean, Olumide, if you had 1 Naira today and you had to go to sleep for 10 years, would you buy a Nigerian bond or a United States bond? You have to go to sleep for 10 years. You will not wake up for 10 years. So that's why the United States bond is going to be the best investment on earth. The safest investment on earth today is a 10-year United States Treasury. Why? Because you know that whatever Trump, Biden, or Obama does, they'll still pay you. If you come to Nigeria, Nigeria has never defaulted on a debt. But can you trust us in 10 years? In the US, you can't trust them. No, Nigeria has never defaulted on a securitized obligation. Nigeria has never defaulted.
I think on the dollar debt, I think during Ngozi were
No, Nigeria has never defaulted on a securitized debt. The ones that we didn't pay was why we owe 40 billion. We borrowed 5 billion. We refused to pay. Then it just added interest. It got to 40. That's a different thing. We're arguing with them. That was under Buhari and IBB.
I know it's a kind of default. Look at it that way. It's a kind of default.
No, not really. Nigeria said we borrowed 5 billion. They charged us interest, negative amortization. Everything just kept on going up. We paid back the 5 billion. But they are saying, oh, you didn't pay. We had a coup. We didn't pay back. They say, oh, we added 1 billion on top. Oh, You didn't, that 1 billion we added on top, went on that 2 billion on top. But what we borrowed is 5 billion. So we didn't default on the debt itself, but it's negative. That was the deal we had with when we paid back the London club. Was it the Paris club? Or we paid back 7 billion. That we didn't default per se, but we had a disagreement over how they were calculating those negative amortization to us. But let's go to Abuchi. I want to hold the space up. Abuchi and Ifrex. Abuchi, go ahead, please. Thanks so much for you engaging. Abuchi, I've called you 3 times. Ifrex Trading.
Okay, Mr. Kalu.
How are you doing, sir?
Sorry, just skip to the next person. I will talk after he has finished.
No worries, sir. Okay, I have Robert Martins. The tide has turned. The Naira has gained against the dollar, and the NGX has outperformed the US stock market this year. Right now, investing in Naira assets is giving a better return than holding dollars. That's a very, very packed statement. First of all, not Nigeria, all emerging markets are doing better than the US. I think it's the first time since last year, started last year, the first time that emerging markets are doing better than the US market. Nigeria was the best performing stock market, I think, twice in the whole world. I think that was called Mr. Dangote's cement, not the refinery, or cement. I think it was 2022, all right? 2022. But since last year and this year, emerging markets have outperformed the US market, both in terms of currency and stock market. It's not a Nigerian thing. It's that the US market for uncertainty has fallen. So the Nigerian and emerging markets have gone up. But context is always very, very important. So the tide has a tide turn. The Naira has gained against the dollar. Has a Naira gained or has the dollar fallen? That's a debate you can have.
Yeah, but so when I hear that argument, sometimes I get a bit off, because from my own perspective, usually when we call currency market, it doesn't really matter what happens as long as you look at which currency is strengthening. So, for example, I understand when people say, "Oh, the dollar has been at a disadvantage, and that's why the Naira is picking up." But you see, for many times, because I'm very particular about currency fluctuations and I write a lot of analysis on it. If you look at the DX and the Naira, they've had a negative correlation for ample number of time. In fact, I've been concerned that there are points when the dollar has weakened and the Naira has also weakened. And I would say that correlation means that the Naira is dysfunctional. So the question is, why is the Naira strengthening? And now it looks like, I don't think it's just probably because of the dollar dismissal, the downfall, to be honest with you. I think what the CBN, and I think the influence with Dangote in this space, and the fact that Nigeria's economic size in financial market is not that huge. Because if you look at the amount, the interest in Naira denominated has increased, FPI, Treasury, bond, over subscription, the US, the Nigerian stock market, then hot money, FPIs. So despite the fact that we don't have FPIs, I think those are probably one of the things why Naira is strengthened, even though the crude oil, which is a major determinant of the Naira strengthening, because it plays a major in our FX earning, has not crossed the federal government benchmark. I think that has given Naira. However, I don't see the Naira playing strong for a very long time, and the reason is not far-fetched. The dollar is at one of its worst era in many years. And if you look at how markets work, if you look at what's happening in the European Union, if you look at what's happening in Asia, you will see that at some point there's going to be what we call cyclic movement, because currencies don't move like stocks. At some point, we look at the end of the year, the books will change. Many portfolio managers will definitely change to the dollar. Many will change. So I don't see the dollar, I don't see the Naira playing the long game. But this year, if you ask me, I think we should give credit to some fiscal plays here. And we should not also make it too colorful that, oh, the Naira is exceptional. I think Naira has taken advantage, but usually the Naira does not have the positive correlation with the dollar's unfortunate pricing.
So let me just to summarize what you're saying, that listen, yes, that because of the monetary policies of the CBN to pay out those overhanging obligations, to control the dollar supply, to get Dangote. Remember that when Mr. Tinubu came to office, he directed NNPC to send their money directly. I think CBN even took over that NNPC's account. It was sent the money directly. So the CBN got that flow of dollars in. All those things that the CBN has contributed to the Naira sort of being in a position to now take advantage of this fall. I think that's a good answer to have. So I heard some guys asking me about when I talked about the US reevaluating. Yes, it's possible. I just posted it out for you guys. Let me read it. Let me read it for you. When if the US revalues its gold reserves, right now, by law, they are supposed to keep it at 42. I don't know if it's by law, but the gold in the US is kept at 42.22. That's the book value. They have not revalued this since they put it in Fort Knox. If they revalue that gold to say 4,500, remember it's $42 to 4,500, that would then allow them to create a revaluation account, which goes to their balance sheet, which means the balance sheet now has more on the asset side. When that happens, the treasury is then able to transfer funds to cover expenses without issuing new debt. That's what I'm saying. The US way it functions that if you want to borrow money, you tell the treasury and the Fed, they talk. The Fed just can't print money. They have to talk. In this instance, without the treasury will simply have space to buy back debt issued by the Fed without going to Congress. That's the whole point. Yeah.
Yeah, but I want to just sorry for audience sake. Don't you think that the United States have already printed so much money? Look at deposits, look at money market globally, look at stock asset classes. Don't you also think that's a problem? Because
no, it's actually helps. The bond market will like this because look at it this way, Lumide. Let's make it easy for people to understand. In Nigeria today, let's say you have a farmer. Because of Land Use Act, the farmer has got 100 acres in Lekki. He goes to the bank to borrow 1 million naira. The bank says, do you have collateral? The farmer says, I have no collateral. Because he has land of 1 million hectares in Lekki, but he has no C of O. That's what America is doing. America has got gold in Fort Knox, but the gold is priced at 42. Now, if Nigeria says that farmer, we're going to suspend was that Land Use Act? We're going to suspend the Land Use Act. That farmer will go back to the bank and say, I want to borrow not 1 million, but 1 billion. Why? Because now he has collateral of 1 million hectares in Lekki that he didn't have by law. So the bankers now actually look at that guy as a better borrower because he has the collateral. Before, the bankers will not lend him 1 million because that land, even though it is his, it needs a C of O. Same with America. Even though the gold is their own, it's priced at $42 an ounce. If they take it to 4,500 an ounce, what happens? The bond market would simply say American bonds today are more valuable than yesterday because now they are backed up by gold, which is being sold at 4,500, not $42. That's the whole idea. So that revaluation reserve that's going to be created now allows the Fed to even spend more because they have more assets to back up their liabilities. That's the whole conspiracy theory in America, that this is all planned to cause uncertainty, to cause the dollar, the markets to fall, which then sets the pace for gold to rise. So when you revalue, you get this whole revaluation reserve. Like I said, it's conspiracy theory, but the numbers do add up. They know. Scott Bessent, you know who Scott Bessent was? Do you know what did he do in his day job? Olumide, you know him now. What did he do in his day job, Scott Bessent? He worked with George Soros. They broke the Bank of England, made $1 billion profit, £1 billion profit. So they know what they're talking about. You know Olumide. Let's get Ifrex trading. Ifrex.
Yeah, Mr. Kalu, good evening.
Hey, how you doing?
I'm fine. How are you?
Very, very well, sir.
Okay. I'm going to look at this as in the day trader's perspective.
Go for it.
Okay, with the topic economic uncertainty, should I hold Naira, USD, or gold?
Yes, sir.
So, looking at it with the keyword hold, which means long-term perspective. Historically, Naira, we all know that Naira has not been performing. in the long run.
Yeah.
So let's cancel that out. So, and then gold and USD. And then we just know that for the past 40 years, gold has not really been doing has not had very big movement, except now that it has been going up like this due to economic uncertainty.
Yep.
So I would say that USD will be good to hold. And then going back to gold, because as a trader, I think it was 14 months ago, there's this guy on the internet that go around asking people how did you make so amount of money? I think it's School of Hard Knocks is the guy's name. So there's this man he interviewed, I think about 14 months ago. So the man he asked the man, what is the easiest way? What should you use to now to make money? He said they should buy gold. That was 14 months ago, and I'm serious about this. Is week. He said they should buy gold at the central bank. They are buying gold. I think gold was about 2,700 to 2,800 then. And I watched the video, and I didn't take that man for serious because gold has not really been performing. So, and between that time and now, gold has almost doubled in price since that man said that. And going back to my trade history, as a day trader, which I speculated in the market, I trade gold as well. I see that most of my losses has always come by me trying to short gold, and most of my profits comes by me going long on buying gold and not shorting gold. So I would say that coupled with the uncertainty that is going on, Trump shutting down the US government, and then because there's no data that is coming up, so there's a lot of uncertainty for everyone, and everyone is just panicking, buying gold, and I'm seeing it that it will keep going, but who knows how long we could keep going up, because anytime and any movement, it can just crash, and then everyone, investors or maybe speculators, will just lose money in the short term. But on the long run, gold will keep winning. It will keep going up, based on the historical advantage of gold. And then looking at the US the data, and then looking at the data, and when you go to places like a Forex Factory to check your data, you see that there's job cuts in the USA, and it's not really very okay for people to really try to hold the US dollar for now, because the dollar is not really very good for now. That I'm not saying, but in the long run it's good. But for now, just for the immediate use now, is not very, very okay for anyone to make use of the dollar for now. But in the long run, it is very fine. So what am I saying in essence? I think we should hold dollar for the long term, and then if we are speculating on what to buy urgently now and buy and make profit, we should all go with gold. And then for the Naira, I think we should just leave the guy for now, because historically it has not been really doing anything well. It's just not okay. So that's my just two kobo contribution.
So give it. Let's do it in terms of percentages. So if you had $1 million Naira, how would you allocate it? Gold, Naira, dollars.
$1 million Naira, I will put 500K in US dollar, and then I will put 300K in gold and 2 million in Naira. When
you say in dollars, what does that mean? Are you going to buy a dollar money market? What does that mean when you're going to put in dollar? What does that mean?
I will just hold USD.
You just hold it?
Yes.
That's no dividends, nothing, just cash in your pillow?
Yeah, just cash. That's it.
Why would you do that, though? Why would you do that? Why would you do that? Because if you just hold it, I mean, there are money markets in their dollar bonds you can do. FCMB has a dollar bond. Many of these guys have a dollar bond. Why don't you just put it there? Why do you want to hold cash?
You know, the process is, you know, when you think about like converting when you hold bonds, you know, there are a lot of processes that you need to go through before you get back your cash. But me, I always like something that if I want to swap it immediately, I can just easily swap it and make use of it without going through processes.
Okay, understood. Tolu, hi. Tolu, your hand is up. What's up? You looks like you have a comeback. Tolu Berry.
Yes, I have not to come back precisely, but I used my hand when you're asking for a prediction of gold. I'm just gonna give you my own prediction for the end of the year, and I think it's gonna be 48.50. So that's my 4,850. That's my own prediction.
That's where you think it's gonna go to. What's the price today? Let me Google it. What's the price today?
4,000 between 4,002 and 4,003.
So you think it's going to add 4 to, so it's going to add about $500 and then sort of like peter out the
Yes.
So 5,000 is going to be the ultimate resistance.
I don't think there's going to be a resistance because let me list the condition. So the thing about gold is people keep saying it's a bubble because they are not understanding that we are in a period of sea change. There's a change in this economy that is very different from what has happened in the past. They look at gold as, because, stock, because of earnings, they think, okay, something is in the bubble. Gold can never be in the bubble because gold is money. It is the anchor of all currencies. So the conditions that gave rise to people buying gold, those conditions are not gone. As a matter of fact, they are being exacerbated. Let me give you an example. Number one is the big, beautiful bill. There are two things, from my own economic knowledge, there are two things that are very important, is the budget and the bond market. The budget, the big, beautiful bill was, the whole idea was that let us grow exponentially so that we can pay off debt that way. Now that in and of itself is not a bad idea. But the government has been on shutdown for about 20 days now, and economic activities are slowed down significantly. NVIDIA just came out and said, they are not selling again. They've not been selling to China and all of that. So that budget can backfire because the debt keeps growing, but the growth activities that you anticipate is not forthcoming. The last year end of the US, September 30th, there were about 2 trillion deficit. Deficit and interest payment is a very key economic factor that can ruin your currency. That's one. Secondly, Donald Trump wants the dollar to go down to encourage export. So that's one factor. And if the dollar goes down, gold is the key beneficiary on that. The other thing is, by October 29, they are going to cut interest rates, and another one in December. So those factors, they are cutting. So those factors, to me, I believe are certain because the economy is really slowing down. So there's going to be, for sure, cut in interest rates. And the other one is by May next year, Jay Powell is going to leave office, and there's going to be a new Fed chairman. That person would be Trump's yes man. So putting together all these factors, I think the dollar is going to go down. As a matter of fact, on the DXY, I think it's going down to about 75. And the key beneficiary for that is gold and silver. I'm not particular about Bitcoin. That's a different topic entirely. But in the next 1 year, the most important asset that's going to benefit the most on the dollar turning down is actually silver, not even gold. Silver is the bottom of the X-Stars pyramid. I want people to Google X-Stars pyramid. Silver is actually money. It's the bedrock of all currencies, not even gold. It's silver, and it is very scarce. As a matter of fact, there has been reports of shortage all over the world. In London vaults, in the COMEX in Chicago, there has been shortage of silver. So I see silver because that's my own biggest holding. It's about 80% of my holding because I was sure of what was going to happen in this economy. But that said, I don't want to wrap up because I need to get lunch. I'm just going to wrap up saying that if we're looking at opportunities, let us look at scarce assets. Wherever you find yourself, whether in Nigeria or in the US, we're talking about gold today. But gold, as at October 16, gold is actually number 5 best performing asset this year. And the top 4 above gold is actually precious metals: platinum, palladium, silver, gold, and cattle. So the whole idea is that because of the money printing and the money creation in this global economy, everything that is scarce is going to be expensive. So we are talking about gold today, but all the best performing assets this year to date is actually scarce assets: palladium, platinum, silver, and gold, and cattle.
Okay,
so
no, I'm just
if you study your environment and see what is scarce. Let's say you are in the north in Nigeria. Think of water. Think of solar panel. If you are in Lagos, think of things that you believe people need and it's going to be scarce in the next 1 year. And I think you can make money out of that.
Yeah, I hear you. I don't want you to go away so quick. That was what I asked you, was that if I want to buy palladium and all that, that's what I can kind of go to. I mean, it's okay to say scarce asset, but can you give our listeners some direction?
Okay. Unfortunately, there's no easy access to such physical commodities in Nigeria. Even here, I'm in Canada, I buy my gold and silver from the bank and from Costco, right? And one of the opportunities I'm looking at, and I'm going to ask you a question. I'm going to ask you a question after this. I'm looking at the opportunity of a marketplace in Nigeria, whether Jumia. I don't know if Jumia is still the top online marketplace in Nigeria. I'm thinking of bringing access of physical silver and gold to Nigerians in such a way that online now, an ounce of silver is about 80,000 Naira. So I'm thinking of registering on this online marketplace and, moving my silver there for people to have access to buy, because people have the money to buy, but they don't have access. So I'm looking at that. But right now, I don't know where you can get palladium or platinum.
I just
buy them in jewelries.
I think it's going to be ETFs. You want to go to ETF that trade in currencies or commodities. That's where you can get exposure to those assets, and it's like the commodities in bulk. I hear you. I think yeah, go ahead.
Mr. Kalu, sorry, please. I think it's important to caveat this recommendation about buying gold.
That's why I asked him because
so that people don't get their fingers burned. It depends on how much you have relative to what you are buying, because ordinary price action.
Malam, right? I think like we say, everyone listening on this space is educational. We are not giving you investment advice. We made that comment at the very, very top, but still people want to know. If you see my DMs, that's all I hear. That's also my DM. How can I do this? So I was going to come to that, right? Malam, you're very, very correct. But if you have decided that you want to buy gold, that's the question. If you have decided you want to buy gold, what should you do? Even in Nigeria, there's an ETF in Nigeria called New Gold ETF. Is linked to a South African thingy. Before all this gold thing, it was already hot. I think now it's even overvalued because people are buying a new gold ETF to get exposure to then monetize their Naira in South Africa at $1 revaluation price. It's already overpriced in my view, but that's one way to do it. Otherwise, just Google ETFs that sell gold. There's BLD, there are lots of them. When you buy it,
I like to add a caveat to that. These ETFs, it's paper gold. When you call for delivery, some of them don't have it. That's the danger of these.
So explain to me how a Nigerian will buy gold if not through an ETF.
It's an unfortunate situation. Either you buy it in jewelry and you kind of
buy from where? From Balogo.
So when I was in Nigeria, the biggest market I know is in Tejosho.
I hear you, bro. What I'm trying to say is this, right? You can buy an ETF for $25. You can buy gold for $25. So There are many ways to hold gold. If you have the money, you could just go to Dubai. They have ATMs that sell gold. If you're in America, there's Costco. Costco sells gold in America. You can buy the physical gold there. But I just think that is, to me, just buying that gold bar. Then you've got to go back and sell it if you want your Naira. I would buy the ETF. Who cares about physical delivery? So let's take this further. I think one thing that people are forgetting the whole world is that if gold today gets to $100,000, do you think the US is going to allow you to keep that gold? They will not. The US is going to make the ownership of gold illegal and ask everyone to return the gold to the Fed. They've done it before. They will do it again. There is no way the US is going to let a currency, even gold, upstage the US dollar. No way. So China can buy because China wants to hold gold. They can then trade with Russia and Brazil for soybeans. But if gold price starts to go high to the extent that people are leaving the US dollar to go and buy gold, the US will step in. So might as well buy the ETF. Do you get the point I'm making, sir? If they say holding gold is illegal, what are you going to do?
That's where you get the liquidity from.
Yeah,
you can always sell it
exactly.
And make.
If
in the short term, I think it's a good idea. But Kalu, can you please answer my question on what I don't know which one is in Nigeria now? What's the trending online marketplace? The last time
I think it's Jumia, isn't it? Jumia and
is this the Jumia?
Jumia is there. They're making losses, but they are there. They're the Amazon of Nigeria. They are there. There's another one again. I will say Jumia is there for you.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Yeah.
You want to sell physical gold? No, bro. I mean, I don't know how they're going to secure that. So if I buy the gold and I'm in Mushin, will they bring it to me with Okada? How will they?
So I'll
think about that. If I have a feedback for you, I'll let you know.
Okay.
Those that buy physical gold in Lagos, I think major hubs in Lagos Island, last time I checked. And most people do that through jewelries.
Okay, so someone is replying me here. Go ahead.
But yes, OTC's merchants, OTC merchant. But the gold smuggling trade where people smuggle from Zamfara and sell at Dubai, I think that also had played a huge influence because the best place to buy is at Tumaland. These people are experts in gold, but the problem is that a lot of people don't even know how to distinguish between a pure 24 karat gold, usually called the pure one, or the ones that are gold plated. So it's kind of very tricky. You really need to have the expertise to do that. But my best bet is that you can buy it directly. ETFs, gold ETFs in the Nigerian stock market. I think I can't remember.
It was new gold. Betiva, you're correct. Yeah.
So, but it's not liquid. So I think the best bet is US. If you ask me, or if you buy sports.
But what if you can't go? If you can't go there? If you're a Nigerian guy without a passport, what do you do? Like, look, there's this store. Someone sent me this store. It says Sanu. I just shared the link online. It's at number 282 Akin Olugbade Street in VI. It's called Sanu, SANU. So if you're interested in buying and selling gold, the Sanu store is open. They're not paying me. They should come pay me for giving them free ads. But that's one store that sells gold, I believe. Yeah. But again, I'm an ETF guy. If you buy today, it goes up 1 o'clock, you sell it by 1 o'clock. It goes down 2 o'clock, you buy it back by 2 o'clock. Then if you hold that physical gold and you are in your village for Christmas, then gold price is going up. You have to come back, get that gold, go and sell it. I don't know, but everyone to his own. Yeah. Everyone to his own.
I'm also an ETF for sports. When I mean sport, not the physical. I rather trade gold through contracts because, like you said, the cost and the security risk, particularly in a place like Nigeria, that it outweighs the advantage you might think you have. So I think, but it's very important. I think gold has shown that it's very important to have it as an asset class. And can you also look at silver too? Silver went higher than gold.
Yeah.
Not just gold. There was this precious metals effect: palladium, platinum, silver. Silver is at its best run in 45 years. At some point it broke the $51. So it's not just even gold that's enjoying the rally. And that's why I said that for me, for those that have been doing the dollar cost averaging or I've been buying gradually. I think, they're big winners. But now, will I dash my money and concentrate it on gold because of, I'd rather keep mine with the US dollar and trade in Nigerian to look at them.
Gotcha. Let's talk around the Nigerian gold reserves in the ground in Kebbi, Zamfara, Osun, and why the central bank and Nigeria have not really accelerated this program of gold purchase. I know a long time ago, I saw the Osun guys took a gold bar to the president, and that was under Mr. Emefiele. That gold bar was added back to the reserves. Why haven't we continued that? But if we simply continue buying the gold in Naira, remember, look at the hack. We are buying the gold in Naira, but once it enters the central bank, it turns to dollar, like magic.
But I listened to one of your speakers from the audience when he said that Nigeria has so much gold. I think that's exaggerated. When we talk about so much, when you talk of, and you look at the operational cost, you look at insecurity, look at countries like Australia and South Africa, when you look at the amount of gold deposits, because the last time I checked, Nigeria is not even in the first 30 countries in terms of gold, untapped gold, And you also look at the fact that, where we have gold in quantities, are places prone to insecurity, Zamfara, Sokoto, those places you call. That world also is scattered. And you look at the fact that illegal mining, our security apparatus has not really helped the solid minerals space. So for me, the CBN, that I felt it was just symbolic for me because I don't see them getting. I felt like if they were going to really be serious, they could have taken the American approach. America has more. America doesn't even count themselves as a gold, but America has gold far more than Nigeria in terms of tap on tap. Talking of people on taps, but if you look at what the Americans have done, they've really institutionalized gold, particularly from the contract ETF strategy. I felt like Nigeria, for example, could have widened that deepness. A country where the CBN has about 1.4, 1.6% of the foreign reserve in gold, and you look at our stock market, you look at the listed amount of gold, then you wonder that this country is not really serious. Because if we're really serious about holding gold, for example, our gold ETF should be at advanced stages. And also, you look at the fact that a lot of women in Nigeria, particularly the upper class, they rather keep their money in gold rather than stocks. So I felt that they could have been an arrangement on how to make these things in form of contracts, investment banks, and this thing. So for me, I think most of these things are just done from the textbook perspective. Because if there's no cultural support on it, then I don't think it's going to fly.
Yeah, no, the numbers make sense for us if we decide to do this. This is way back 2020. What was this? Yeah, you see, Nigeria was losing $3 billion in 6 years to illegal mining. You can see that. I'm going to share a post now on Twitter. The CBN governor holding a 12.5 kg bar of gold is worth 268 million. That same gold bar will be approaching anywhere like 800 million today. That gold bar, and it's from Nigeria. And that gold bar was, This is 2020.
Why do you think the program has not been successful?
Because they've allowed bandits to determine if it will be successful. That's the only reason why. They've allowed bandits to determine if it will be successful. This is Nigeria. We have an army. Why can the Nigerian government not go to those places and take over those gold mines from the bandits? All this bandit talk is about gold. They do the bandit thingy to scare people. When people leave, they go and mine the gold and they export it to the UAE. That's really what's going on. The Kano, that's really what is happening. So if we are a bit more serious, then we should be able to grab these gold reserves and convert it to, we actually have, it's a presidential artisanal gold mining initiative. That's what we call it. We have an actual program, for it. And we just have simply not pursued it. So the army is there.
Yeah, but I agree with what you have said. But don't you think that if that was just the problem, Western influence like Anglo Gold, Barrack, these are major gold miners now, for example, don't you think they will have found an arrangement, just like we Shell, ExxonMobil, Chevron are done in the. Because for me, like I totally agree what you're saying that well, we have a security issue. But my own argument is that I think those numbers are inflated. I think we don't really have as much gold as what people are saying. Because if you look at data, for example, look at gold producing, look at Ghana, for example. I've been to Ghana a couple of times. Ghana also have illegal mining problems. But when you look at the amount of verified reserves of gold, then you know that businesses take this thing serious. Because from my own perspective, if the president could launch the opening of lithium mining, I think Naira, where I can't remember the state. I think if we have so much gold like as at that level, though I understand what Kalu said, I think those things would have been addressed.
In all fairness to us, did we know Sierra Leone and Liberia had dollars, had gold and diamonds before we had ECOMOG? I mean, Nigerians knew that there was gold in Sierra Leone or diamonds. How many Nigerians knew that? And it's the same thing, I think, in northern Nigeria. We've not really gone there to set up a company there to mine and do charting. The Niger Delta, who knew we had oil till the Igbos came there, mined it, charted it, put the wells, and we started exploring? Who knew we had that amount of gold? We've not done a real study in the northwest of Nigeria on the quantity of gold. You know, there are pictures. If you go using Federal Ministry of is it land? What's the name? This ministry of mining or whatever. They have a map of Nigeria with the gold mining areas. It's been identified through aerial photographs where you have the soil that contains the gold. But have we gone there as a nation to say this gold, just like crude oil, is owned by the Federation? The same way we do NNPC, we should have Nigerian National Gold Corporation. The same way we have the forces in Niger Delta, we should have an entire division in that whole place, securing that gold, so that we're able to mine that gold. There's already a 13% derivation for gold. It's already in the budget. It's there. So solid minerals has a 13%, the same way gold and oil has a 13%. The difference is that in the Niger Delta, we were able to secure that area to get crude oil, but we're not able to secure the Northwest to get gold. And then I've shared the figures with you again. If you look at here, the CBN gave a check, Naira check, to PAGMI. And then they took gold bar from those guys. They're buying gold in Naira to then go and give to gold in the CBN in dollars. This is fantastic. In Nigerian crude oil, we borrow money in dollar and refine crude oil in dollar and export in dollar and import in Naira and all that. But this is, you print Naira. So look how the CBN is printing paper, Naira, buying gold locally, and that gold becomes dollar. And then that dollar goes back to Naira to pop Naira price up. We should have been doing this yesterday, bro. Yesterday. And why we're not doing it now that gold price is going up is beyond. This on that way we can boost the Naira, create jobs. The president is saying here that if we had done this way back then, it would have created, I'm quoting the president, 250,000 jobs and generated revenues of 500 million annually in royalties and taxes. So we've ignored 250,000 jobs. If you take 250,000 jobs to the Northwest, you change that area. 500 million annually in royalties and taxes, with 13% going back to the Northwest automatically as derivation. Why haven't you done it? Questions? All right, bro. Let's get Maynard. Maynard, how you doing?
Good evening, Mr. Kalu.
How you doing? I'm doing very well, sir. Thanks for hopping in.
Yeah, am I audible?
Yes, you are. Just fix your audio a bit.
All right. So before I proceed, I want to ask you something. Should I go ahead?
You're already asking.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you, sir. Go ahead.
All right. So if eventually the US evaluate their gold to the current price, what happens to their currency? Does it get weaker or increase in value?
We increase in value.
Okay, increases.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because they can. There's more assets backing up the liability.
Okay. All right. But part of Donald Trump's agenda is to actually make the dollar weaker, right?
Yes, not just his agenda. Every nation on earth. Okay, let me mute you. You have feedback on your audio. There's no exporting nation on earth that wants a strong currency. None. China, US, Switzerland, Japan, Germany. Look at every exporting country. They prefer a weaker, not weak as in Venezuela weak, but weaker, so their currency is competitive. As a matter of fact, I was reading an article just now that Ghana, when Ghana was buying the gold to make their currency become stronger, the currency became so strong that Ghanaian exports suffered. They couldn't export as much cocoa because their cocoa now became expensive. So they got the strong cedi, the strong currency, but their cocoa sort of suffered because Ivory Coast cocoa was then cheaper. Nigerian cocoa was cheaper than Ghanaian cocoa. I hope that makes sense, sir.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
So bringing this back to the economic levels, like in terms of which asset to hold, right?
Yeah.
I think we should be looking at gold, right? Because eventually, fiat currency, as inflation goes, everything, your money that you saved is devaluing, you know. But coming to gold, right, is a safe haven, right? When top countries fight wars, gold goes up, global tension, gold goes up, stuff like that. But let's not forget to actually see this from a long-term perspective, not a get rich quick something, right? Does that make sense?
I mean, whatever we want to see it as, just see action, right? The cocoa price was doing better than Bitcoin last year. Did we take advantage of it? Now the price has fallen. So the market won't wait for you. This gold rally could be over soon. Take advantage.
Okay. All right. I like that. And the fact that people are actually rushing to buy gold right now. Gold is some sort of at an all-time high right now, right? And there might be a retracement, like some kind of pullback for the movement to continue. And along the line, most people that are joined because of more will get burnt, you know. So I feel like while talking about which one to hold, one should really be able to identify the level is at to know which one to actually go into. Does that make sense now?
Yeah, I mean, you always want to invest according to your risk objectives and your profiling and your liquidity needs. You always want to do that, irrespective of the investment class you're looking at.
All right. And I want to ask you something as well. A fellow speaker here is saying about silver, right? So looking from a industry perspective, do you think silver will keep going up or will have to fall at some point?
I think both are going up in price. Let me mute you.
Okay.
I think both have been going up in price from what we've seen. Both gold and silver have been going up in price, not just because they are precious metals, also because they have utility. Silver is used in solar panels. Gold is used in your cell phones and also in AI. So those two things have driven the price of gold and silver. Is a lot of renewables in China. Lots of solar panels have been done, and you need silver for that. So that's why they've both been going up, even faster than, say, palladium and even the rare earth metals. Don't also forget the rare earth metals. If you look at it this way, why is it that gold has gone up 4,500 or the huge percentage price in price, but rare earths that are even more important than gold have not really gone up in price so much? It's because of who is buying. This is the problem with the gold purchases now. It's been bought by central banks. Emerging market central banks are buying. China, India are leading that push to buy gold. So because that buyer is not a fundamental buyer, they're not looking at the price of gold or the PE of gold, if that even exists. They are looking at it as a strategic purchase to hedge themselves against a unipolar dollar. If they are doing that, then the gold price will keep on going up until they stop. That's just the reality. It's not going to obey technical analysis. It's not going to obey fundamental analysis. It's just when China and India believe they have enough gold now, they rebalanced a foreign exchange composition, then they'll stop buying. Will the price come down from where it is to a lower level? Yes, because there's no more buying pressure. Right now, what you are seeing is individual buyers are seeing the price of gold go up and are now tempted to say, oh, wow, gold is going up. I want to go and buy and do a momentum play. That is what retail investors do. You can get in, ride that musical chair and make money. But if you get in and those big boys stop buying, you're going to be held holding a lot of gold that doesn't pay you a dividend. You only just use it to insure an asset. Why buy insurance when you don't have the asset to insure? Gold is insurance. It's like going to buy insurance without a car. That's what you're buying when you're buying gold. So just be careful out there. It's not as straightforward as just want to buy it. Yeah. Hope that helps, sir. Minan, hope that helps.
Yeah, all right.
Fantastic.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah. And I want to say something again from Nigeria side, right? So while contemplating on which to hold, right, we might as well look at things like physical asset like lands and houses as well. And I'll drop my mic here. Thank you.
All right, perfect. Thank you. Lumde, we're nearly at the 2-hour mark. We've been here for 2 hours talking around, this asset class. Do you have any other insights you want to share in terms of just investing in Nigeria? I hear you talk about the tax reforms. Just, do you think that the tax reforms really give the Nigerian Naira a big boost, even more than even what Dangote is doing? What's your view? Are the tax reforms going to be net positive that we'll see Naira go to maybe 1.4 to 1.3? Do you think that there's a pool?
To be honest with you, I don't see that where the tax reforms benefit the Nigerian. Yes, definitely we're to see much more efficient system in terms of the fact that people, the upper class awareness will increase. Now that capital gain tax also will come in play for high net worth individuals. But I think slightly negative in terms of the fact that some people will be some people more cautious about investing so much in Nigeria because of that differential. But for currency appreciation, I think Dangote clearly, I think, is the biggest winner this year in terms of the fact that the activity reduced subsidy, increased refined exports in places like United States and that. But with the latest news about Dangote, I think my excitement about the Naira has reduced because operationally Dangote is operating 50% below capacity. That's about 200,000 and according to Bloomberg, that's because of operational setback. So for me, I think the tax reforms in the stock market will likely be negative, like I mentioned earlier, and that's because many Nigerians don't have trading volumes of 150 million and above. And if you look at the number of people in the CSS account that are actively traders or investors, it's minute. However, I think clarity with time in terms of the fact that that will definitely bring accountability to the system if the political elite and the elephant in the room, that's the president, really leads by example. Because, like you said, we spoke about tax reform and we said that despite the fact that we are not politicians or we're just looking at it from a market or financial perspective, there's so much good things for the middle or lower class, but because of trust, because of the credibility of past regimes and some of these politicians, it's very hard to sell these things. So it's kind of very difficult. But for me, I think what really is helping the Nigerian stock market is really the fact that these assets have been on depressed level for too long. And if Dangote release next year, definitely the market will definitely hit the 120. Now the market looks like it's going to break 100 trillion without Dangote, but it looks like it's hitting a resistance. It has done that sometime. But if you look at Boa Food, look at Dangote Cement, they are at record high. So for me, I think those that bet on Nigerian stock when this administration came in, they are the biggest winner. I think for those that really want to come in, I think they have to be very cautious because for me, despite the fact that valuations quite attractive, I think for me it's overbought. That's why I really not been talking so much about Nigerian stocks. And I also want people to be aware that yields are also dropping because the CPN has been cutting rates. So the Naira doesn't have so much room like we think. If Dangote really doesn't come up, because me, I was just betting on Dangote because of the 650,000 barrels per day production. But now that it's at 300,000, which is not that bad. But the incentive for us to generate more effects, also need to look at the fact that crude oil is dropping. There's a point that I read Morgan Stanley saying that crude oil might hit $50 next year. And that's bad news for Nigeria because if you look at our operational margin in terms of how much we make and the fact that Nigeria directly produce crude oil, then it tells you that we have some fiscal challenges ahead. So that's my take on.
Well said, Olumide. I mean, I just to emphasize this point, the Nigerian economy internationally is seen as doing well. If you look at the bonds, the Euro bonds Nigeria has issued, the yields have fallen. So when your yields fall, that means the price has gone up. People like Nigerian bonds today because they feel that the macroeconomics are getting better. So if you have money and you want to buy a bond, you want to buy them now because the more those yields fall, of course, it's going to be a bit expensive for you. So overall, the macroeconomics favor the government, that they are doing the right thing now. And like the IMF has advised, you have stabilized the economy. You've taken the economy from being quote unquote broke to a situation whereby the economy is now at a place where it can generate substantial revenues from fiscal as well as monetary stability, i.e., we can get money from taxes, but people are also giving Nigeria money. I even saw an article where Nigeria was going to be added back to a basket of bonds. I saw an article over the week. So overall, internationally, the Nigerian reform is getting good praise abroad. There are risks. The risks are this: the oil price is still going to be lower, right? And like Olumide said, if we don't cut spending or start to spend in a good way, right, that might be a problem. Also, elections are coming up. And what happens to elections is not just the spending. It's not the spending on the problem. The spending helps the economy. The problem is what we are spending on. Don't fool yourselves. If Nigeria comes out today and says we want to spend 100 trillion, we're going to borrow 100 trillion and spend 100 trillion on roads and rails to connect all the state capitals in Nigeria, the GDP of Nigeria will double. Because even though you are borrowing that money, you are creating jobs, you are creating productivity, you are creating consumption in the local economy. The economy will react and there will be an uptake in the GDP. The problem is that we don't do that. We're going to take this money and go for conference abroad, SUVs, capacity building, poverty eradication, those things that do not add any competitive or productive input to the Nigerian economy. So we spend the same 100 trillion, but you're not going to see any roads, you're not going to see any bridges, you're not going to see any new housing estates. And then we do that every year for 4 years. Elections come every 4 years. The first year the president will work, second year the president will work. By third year, he has to go and do campaigns. So instead of him building a road from Lagos, to Calabar, he will redirect the road to go through Edo because he wants to win Edo state votes. Then tomorrow, if Abia is looking like it's dying, he says, okay, let's take the coastal route to Abia so that we'll win votes there. So the whole economy now becomes, let's win votes. So the economy doesn't react to those economic planning. Just this week, we found out that Nigeria actually hit its 20 by 20 vision. So Nigeria had a vision 2020, and Nigeria hit that vision 2020 by 2014. Nigeria was the 19th largest economy in the world, the 19th as at 2014. All this president needs to do is to look at what was the economy like in 2014. What were the macroeconomic variables? He just copies them, he just pastes them. But he even has a big advantage. In 2014, when Nigeria was still paying fuel subsidy, we're not paying fuel subsidy again. The money from fuel subsidy, we have to see that money. This money has got to be spent in the economy. We can't hide it inside FAC. Yeah, you can't hide it there. And if we do that, the economy sort of reacts to that. So they're on a good trajectory. I mean, the Tinubu guys are on a good trajectory. They have to take it further.
I wanted to add what you said. You recall when you last were in Nigeria, and when we spoke about big disposable income. I can tell you that things are even worse now.
What?
In fact, when the World Bank said, yes, it works now. When the World Bank said 139 million people are poor, I thought they were extreme until I got to see some things on ground. And you see, my fear is that, there's that disconnect. And when there's a disconnect in economic variables, your textbook analysis becomes rubbish, it becomes rubbish, And that's really why I'm very concerned here, because the average Nigerian does not even have disposable income. Let's be honest there. If you look at what the banks, I was trying to now break it into bank earnings and look at manufacturer FFCC. I found that most of the guys that really leverage on the cheaper Naira, or the guys that are really in investment banking and ones making a kill, those relying on disposable income are having issues, because it is terrible, Kalu. It's terrible across board, because I've spoken not just from my own views, I've spoken with so many people in different, because I was trying to do a report on why that 139 million, I think, was either an exaggeration or is a true state. But I'm getting to feel that a lot of people, particularly the lower middle class, are really feeling, because now for you to eat a balanced diet meal in Nigeria, to eat a balanced diet meal, you need at least in a day. I'm talking of a single person, at least in a day, you need between 5 to 10,000 naira. That's depending on if you eat 101 or you eat 100. If you eat 111, we are talking about 5,000, because protein now in Nigeria is expensive. 100 naira is almost as, I don't think you can use, maybe you want to buy sweet, You take a look at, it takes bus fare between 500 meters, we spend about 200 naira. Just in city. So things have really gone up, things have really gone. So my concern is that the president really needs to take that, because he's wanting to say these beautiful things, like we look at numbers, look at data, we look at, because from the investment part, but when the average Nigerian is not feeling deep, and that's why I said that the president sometimes needs people on ground. I think there was one governor that usually does that at the night travels, he works without escort, just to know what is really happening in his state. I think the president needs something like that, because the truth is that, yes, the macros are really doing well. And I mentioned that, but if you look at the micro, it's very scary, Carl. Very, very scary.
All right. No worries. Let's get a few guys to hop in here before we come again. I want to see one speak about. Hold up. Let's get Chidalo. No, Chidalo. No, hold up, Chidalo.
I've not spoken since.
I called you 3. I've called you 3 times. How about you go ahead?
Yeah.
Go ahead,
Thank you. Yeah, quick one. Economic uncertainty around the world. Donald Trump himself is an economic uncertainty, yes, and we've dealt on that already. The idea is to get the dollar down. And I know if they can bring some jobs back to US, because they've been complaining since Obama time that China has taken some jobs away from them. And that is by the way. Then on the aspect of gold, I think anybody that is approaching gold now, because one thing with this market is when it gets excited, people jump in and the market drops. So from what I'm seeing, I think right now it has to approach gold with some level of scrutiny. You have to be careful because of some retracement. Then the long run, gold is always good to go. Gold is a historical safe haven. There is no question about that. Then taking this subject of discourse back to Nigeria, economic uncertainty, and I have to ask you, you have to help me here, Kalu. What do you think that will happen or happens when government injects too much cash in circulation, like what we see prior to 2020 election, whereby in certain primaries of political party, their form was overpriced, and a lot of cash was flowing around during campaign season. What do you think that the effect? Quick one. What's the effect on the economy?
Well, if it causes velocity of money, then that's going to drive inflation. If there's no productivity, yeah.
Thank you. Now we've seen a lot of borrowing, and we see people gearing up for 2027, and we see middle class being erased drastically, like Olumide pointed out. People don't have disposable income these days. and we ask a question: where is all this borrowing going? Forget about all this flamboyant statistic that people are feeding us with. Okay, so it becomes another economic uncertainty that 2027 is coming and campaign season is around the corner. Are we not sure that we are going to see a repeat of people injecting another money into the economy in the form of vote buying, in the form of outrageous candidacy form, again, which has its own ripple effect? So if you take me back to these concerns, and I will tell you that I would rather hold gold or dollar, you get, until things clears. Now, talking about your local currency getting weakened, I think at this moment, Naira is weak. It's also another ample opportunity for us to look seriously into exportation. I don't know if anybody has thought about that. It's a good opportunity for us on individual basis to look into exportation. Because I think this is what exactly this country needs. At the basics, this country is not at larger scale producing something that we can export, and is an opportunity in itself, begging for someone to look into that direction. So that's my own submission. So I will go with gold and also with USD, because USD is always stable day in, day out. Thank you.
All right, good submissions. Thanks, Abuchi. Well said there. We've got to watch the spending coming along in 2026. If we can keep that spending at levels or direct that spending to productive ventures, we're fine. It's not the spending, it's where it's been spent on. That's really the problem. Chidalo, hi.
Hello. Good evening, everyone. So, back to what he said. Be better. Nigeria really needs to be an engineering state. I'm an engineer myself. Nigeria does not have the fundamental engineering skills like China. Like, if you look at China's graduates, you see that a lot of them are engineers from the very basics. We have to.
Hey, Chidalo, your audio is kind of off and on. I'm not sure if it's just me.
Hello.
Yeah, go ahead.
Is it good now?
Go ahead.
Okay, so I was just saying that what Nigeria really needs is to an engineering state like China that overproduces even the basic necessities. Food is expensive in Nigeria because of how unmechanized our production process is. So what we need there is engineers, not bankers, not financiers, just pure engineers who go into the field and engineer the solution. But that aside, as a business owner myself, because I usually I usually see your posts on Twitter, on X, and you are slightly over biased towards Kalu, precisely towards America, because me on my day-to-day business, I usually only have in my portfolio like budget for my company, gold and yuan, the Chinese currency, because 80% of all my purchases are in yuan. When I deal with Chinese traders, I don't give them dollars. I just give them yuan directly, Naira to yuan trade. So there's something the Chinese are doing, and they have a very long-term perspective on this. They are trying to bypass the US dollar slowly but surely. And if that is possible, if the US says they want to seize your gold or pass a law, like I don't know if it is Nixon or someone who did that before. The Chinese, it is no longer purely a single polar world. You can always go and bypass the US. It is. I'm just saying from my own experience, as like what I've experienced as a business owner, and especially what I see in Nigeria regarding Nigeria's current state. Nigeria does not have disposable income because of our production processes are so poor.
when I saw documentation that people take this into a manufacturing plant, and it is so inefficient. The manufacturing process is so inefficient that it is cheaper to do it by hand.
All right.
To return back to the normal process. So, thank you.
Yeah, sure. Thanks for contributing. Your audio was going back and forth, so I really wish I could hear, but I did get the point of your cross of your statements. So just want to thank you for making those comments. I just wish the audio was a bit clearer. Omola, you might take us home. You've changed your name, Bright. Which was this long name now?
Okay, it's just the name there. Omaluabi. Simple as that. First light. Good evening, everybody. Amazing time. It's been a while, Kalu. How have you been?
I've been very well. We've been very well. Thanks for asking, sir.
Yes. Quick one. I enjoy the discussion and I enjoy everything that is going on.
Yeah.
But you see, I also realized that, which has always been my point, the 130-something million that are below poverty level, I don't think is full responsibility of the federal government. And I've said this time without number. Even the production that we're talking about, how many states is productive in Nigeria today? Kalu, when we talk about the insecurity, no doubt about that. You cannot tell me that the entire state is facing insecurity. There are part of those states that are well secured that can be used to produce something. Because you see, I like the fact that we all discuss this thing. The 130 million people are spread across this state in Nigeria. These 130 million people across local government, senatorial district, villages, towns, they are all spread across these places. Unfortunately for them, the policy of the federal government from the middle might not get to them in the next 10 years. I'm sorry. But what exactly are those state governors doing with those funds they are getting? What exactly are they investing in terms of production? And I've said this time without number. If you go to states, for instance, let's use Kebbi. We know Kebbi is the masterminder of rice in Nigeria. If you move from Kebbi, you go to Kano. In Kano, there are two things that are major in Kano. If you go to Rano, they produce large rice in quantity. Those rice are being sold to the Niger of this world, up to Sudan, up to Burkina Faso, and the rest of them. That production is still there. It's been there the time immemorial. In that same axis, the best farm irrigation is in that location done by Abubakar Rimi as far back as 1980s, started by Malam Aminu Kano and ended by Abubakar Rimi. You have tomatoes year in, year out in those axes. What exactly have those states done to improve on those things? Because you see, we can speak all we like about what the federal government is not doing right. But again, we also make it feel like if federal government do not perform, it's also a license for state governors not to perform. I don't know why some state governors cannot invest in large cattle farming or goats or say beans or say rice or say onions or say tomatoes. You don't have to do anything. I don't know why some southeastern states cannot invest in a large quantity of oil palms, ugu, and the rest of them. The things, the commodity, the things that you know that is productive. And again, the reason why I also see that our people talk so much about this dollar thing, I am of opinion. For instance, unfortunately, I work in an organization that we use dollars for most of our things, right? When it goes up, it goes up. When it comes down, it affects our salary. It affects practically everything we do. But guess again, we save in Naira. But this is the other part of it that for me it's really scary for me. Is the fact that you would think that with these things we're having, our appetite for bringing in things from abroad will have reduced. It has reduced, but not as much as I wanted to reduce. But those people that are those countries, I don't know if you follow up these days what is happening between one of these social media guys, I don't want to mention names, and the other one, why something you can do it at this price, and the other person say, no, you cannot do it at this price.
Yeah.
I was thinking that by now, those guys should start negotiating with those companies in China to put their factories in Nigeria, because take it or leave it, those countries, those factories run on their own energy. Get a leadway. A state can bring in one of those guys. A state has the capacity to bring in those guys so that they can help in putting those factories in their state.
I hear you.
On the electricity.
Well, no, I want to. I don't want you to. So we can.
No. Because you see, Kalu, from everything we have discussed here, it all boils down to federal government. And as if the state does not exist. The local government does not exist.
The federal government. So just to be clear, right? The topic is only a federal government response. States don't manage Naira or gold or whatever. So it's all federal. But we of course, I agree with you that the wealth generation is from the local government, not even state. Local government level is where wealth is generated, and the states are not pulling their weight. I completely agree with you. There's no debate there. But we're not talking local government issue, I think, at the moment. Yeah.
No, I know, Kalu. You just mentioned something now about gold in Zamfara.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately for me, I'm also into mining. I have an uncle who is about to build a plant, right, for gold, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we just like you discussed about the loans, access to. Do you know that Nigeria do not have a loan to help people who want to go into mining, like it is in South Africa, like it is in some other East African country? In South Africa, for instance, once you bring in those assets to the bank, a bank is willing to give you. My brother had to go all the way to London Stock Exchange to get some of the funds he's using.
And that's a federal issue, not a state issue.
No, that's what I'm saying. It's a federal issue. But I am saying, even our banks do not have facility to facilitate a mining business in Nigeria.
If I was a bank MD, I wouldn't lend money to mining. It's not the risk. Banks are not there to develop their economy. Banks are there to manage shareholders' money.
Get this for me. In South Africa, it's done. In Zambia, they have similar thing.
Yeah, but South Africa and Zambia do not have bandits at mining sites. That's the difference. So if a bank lends you money,
the bandit in Osun State, there is gold.
Mm-hmm.
In part of some places, is there bandits in Osun State? No. In part of Oyo, there is.
And that's why Osun has a company there, and that company has a bank account. I'm sure there's no way to operate with a bank account. They have a bank account for that company in Osun, but in Kebbi, in Zamfara, there is no company there mining gold.
No, there is a company that was registered by the Zamfara state government.
The Zamfara state government can't register a company. They don't have the power to register a company.
They have a company. You remember when we have that issue? People saying that the refinery in the south is owned by the oil is being managed by south government, by the federal government, but the gold in Zamfara is being owned by Zamfara state government. I don't know if you remember those, but anyway, it's a topic for another day. But I'm just telling you what I know. But I'm just saying, as we discuss it at the federal level, I think we need also to hammer it. Let the states also start doing.
What should Zamfara State do with mining? They can't do anything with mining. Zamfara State cannot attack bandits. So let's put the blame where the blame is. On this particular issue, it's a federal response.
The federal government hold the chunk of the blame. That's what I'm saying.
Not the chunk of the blame. Not the chunk of the blame. The Nigerian army is a federal establishment, not a state, not a local government. So that's 100% federal. The federal government has got to go and clear the bandits, register companies, and then companies will go to those places and then mine gold. Osun is mining gold. the company is registered by the federal government. The federal government provides security there. You have local, whatever vigilante, yes, but it's a federal issue. Derivation, gold is not owned by the state, it's owned by the federation, not even the federal, by the federation. So I agree with you. We have to make sure that states pull their weight. But in this instance, it's 100% federal issue. The state government cannot fight bandits that are not even Nigerian. Many of them are coming here from all across West Africa under ISIS to drive away people and then farm that gold on their land and then export the gold to the UAE. It's been reported a million times. Even President Buhari said the same thing. So if we're losing a lot of money, people are being killed. They will say it's bandits, bandits. We're negotiating with the bandits. We should be blowing them up, and all that. So we have to, they have to fix it. You can't allow people, there are so many people with guns there. And the longer you allow this thing to fester, the more they build a kingdom. These are people with openly carrying guns, with motorcycles all over the place. And we're negotiating with them. The Niger Delta boys were hiding in the creeks. These guys are taking, I don't know what to say, man. But, if it's just rice, okay, but this is gold. These are minerals in that area. That we can't allow those guys just. Why they're not in Ghana? Why they're not in Togo? Why they're not in Benin? Why they're in Nigeria? Why? So we have to ask serious questions, my brother. Yeah. Okay, fantastic, guys. We're going to shut down the space in about. We'll take our last comment now. We'll spend about 2 hours, guys, talking around the economics of gold, naira, and dollars. As you can see, the consensus is coming out pretty soon. I'll do a summary. Let me get the last guy. No information provided to speak, and then sort of call today. Just do a summary and then call today. No information. Are you ready to speak? Okay. You requested doctor. Okay, I'm also adding my doctor also wants to speak, so of course I can't go without asking Dr. Bieri. Hi, how you doing, sir?
Kalu, how are you?
I did fine, sir.
How are you, my brother?
Well, good. I saw your post on. We have to have a space again on the infrastructure in the Southeast whenever you're ready. But yeah, go ahead, sir.
Okay, thank you so much. I think on the shorter term, anybody that has dollar should not just hold it. You just watch the market and play along with the market. I think in the shorter term, Carlos is doing a lot of good job in using hot money to manage forex stability. And the guys at the NU RPC, Komalafe, they are also trying their best. You know that crude oil output has remained steady at 1.5, 1.6 million barrels, unlike before, when they can tell us if it's 1.1 to the next 800. The rampant steaming has reduced. So there's a rate of stability. We can estimate how much we can actually generate in terms of dollar inflow. So in the medium term, we need to watch to see if they are actually serious in executing the massive reform that will need in the upstream and oil and gas sector that they've always promised to enable us to generate more money. They are actually reforming, and they try to divest from the shareholdings of the federal government of Nigeria on the JVs. If they can do that, that will unlock about $15 billion into this economy, which will also help you make a So but in the longer term, if we watch it within the next 6 months, next 1 year, and they are not doing anything in terms of those reforms towards the election, and I will advise people to hold their dollars straight, in their pockets. But for now, it will be risky to hold the dollar, for a longer term. Thank you.
So you so you feel that Naira is gaining value on dollars if those reforms happen?
If those reforms happen,
yeah,
and that is the reform that they planned, divesting from the JVs, reforming the NMPC, selling down 70% of the shareholding of the federal government, and getting deep-pocketed investors to go in there, and then ramping up output. I tell you, I'm not kidding you. Of course, 85% of our forex earning is it's based on these operations within the oil and gas industry. The Naira and the Naira will most likely get to the level of 1.314 if they execute these massive reforms.
Yeah.
The fiscal side is a tall order. if God can touch them and transform them and make them repent and actually execute a lot of reform on the physical side, Naira can actually come down to the level of 700. But I don't see them touching the physical side. But everybody's in the mood of election.
Yeah.
All they're after is that they can mop up money, steal money, loot money, and then across the 3 tiers of government. But kudos to Yemi Cardoso, kudos to the guy at any PRC, Komolafe. The guy at the NNPC have actually helped a lot to reduce some of the criminality in that sector. He's doing his best. So I think there's a bit of stability because of the works of the guy at the NUPRC, the guy at the NNPC now, and Yemi Cardoso. These 3 have actually been the stabilizing factor for us in the short term. But let's see what happens in the longer term.
Can you talk to me about the sale of the JVs? They want to sell the JV assets. That's going to be a liquidity event and all that.
Yeah, you know that most of our JVs in the joint venture arrangement that we have with the IOCs like Shell, Chevron, and the rest of them, is a kind of a 65%, 60% federal government holding. And then 40% by those JVs. Of course, you know this usual cash call, which we've always not fulfilled. And of course, because of the opacity of arrangement with those IOCs that have played a lot of games with us, we don't even know actual output that they produce. But with the latest arrangement, the federal government is going to divest from those JVs, bring down their shareholding to about 40%, allow those JVs to become incorporated and operate transparently with their own balance sheet, like we have at the Nigerian Liquefied Natural Gas. And of course, if they are very fortunate and honest to bring in some other technically savvy, even local operators, you know, with the checks and balances there, not the IOCs controlling everything in terms of operation and bringing in another third party, we may likely have more transparency. The issues of backlog of cash call may not be there because they have their own balance sheet. They can actually attract new investments, you know, deepen exploration, you know, they go back into the existing wells. There's going to be a lot of things that will happen in terms of transparency. Why the Nigerian Liquefied Natural Gas is working effectively is because of the element of the fact that it is 51% controlled by the private sector investors and the 49% controlled by the NNPC. So they are not subject to the shenanigans of National Assembly and all these stupid oversight functions that is to extort money. Gotcha. And we expect Ojulari, if he lives up to the expectations, to be able to persuade the presidency to see if they can sell down 60% of the shareholding of the, because NNPC is currently owned 100% by Ministry of Finance Incorporated and the Ministry of Petroleum Incorporated. So if they can get them to sell down 70%, 30% to core investors, 40% to Nigerians, I will subscribe, or you will subscribe, and list on the floor of the Nigerian Stock Exchange to make it be as efficient as Petrobras. I tell you, I'm not kidding you. It will catalyze a lot of inflows. It will actually help the drive towards, you know, some people are saying, oh, they want to buy it. Even if they want to buy it, let them buy it. Because if they have bought NNPC, those refineries in 2007,
it would have worked now. It would have worked now. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So I hear a lot of green grass. Green grass shoots out in the desert. And what we're looking for now is fertilizer to fertilize our green grass to make them grow. That's what I'm hearing from you now.
Exactly. And you know, if they can play less of politics and toughen stance, because my greatest fear is on the physical side. You see all these governors jumping into APs. Basically, what happened allegedly is that most of them preferred most of the excess funds that they got, so they have those years on them. So they are all trooping in there to protect their investment, protect their loot, and loot unhindered. If we can get involved in less politics and the toughen stance and get them to do what they're supposed to do on the physical side, fighting security, ramp up productivity, non-oil and gas sector. I tell you, see, to be very frank with you, with the right leadership across the and arms of government, we can shoot out a $1.3 trillion economy within the next 5-7 years.
We were at 813 already, so the gap is not huge. Again, we can. It's not huge again. So I mean, it's I like what I'm seeing. So revenues are going to be massive in 2026. Would stabilize in 2027.
Yes.
So
if they can play
less of point. Like I've always said, I'm not so much a believer in whether PDP or APC or Labour Party or AT. All of them are just.
They're all the same gentlemen, yeah.
They are all the same thing. Let us face fact. They are all the same thing. Everybody is scampering for what to take and what to put there. And I know if it's even possible, like I've always said, if we can pass a law and give them 2-year amnesty, let them bring back all their loose and invest. I know most of them are dumb. We can show them where to invest the money here in Nigeria to catalyze investment.
Yeah.
If you put $500 billion in this economy, and I tell you, I'm not kidding you, this country, if we had lived up to our prospect in 1970, we would have been a $2.7 trillion economy.
Yeah.
But the problem we have is that we have this cats, this crab mentality among our leaders. They think that the only thing that matters is to go to Florida and buy property in the name of their son and their wife. Go to Maryland, go to Potomac, buy. These guys are. I think I go to the wealthiest man in the whole of Africa. I have no property outside Nigeria. Go and fact check this. Last time sometimes when I see people talk ill about Aliko, I feel like cutting off their heads. If all the loot they took outside, they had 4 of them are even just Aliko that go to do their looting. Can they bring the investment and invest here? Here will be a paradise.
Yeah.
Let us even allow them steal, but invest here because you cannot stop them from stealing because it's in their DNA.
South Korea did it. What we see today as all those chaebols, the Hyundai, the Kia, the military guy took over power and called them and said, I give you guys 1 year. If you bring the money back to South Korea, I will not prosecute you. But after 1 year, all bets are off. They trusted the guy. That was Park, General Park. They brought the money in. And what you see today with all them Hyundai, Daewoo, it's that. They brought the money in. Samsung. That's what they did.
India did similar thing like that.
Yeah.
India did that as well.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Well,
let's see. See, Kalu, these guys, let me tell you, I always say it. Let us stop deceiving ourselves. We know that 99% of the average Nigerian politicians are just there to steal and loot. And most of them, because they have no brain to do anything creatively, just steal and see if they can. Let us give them 2 years amnesty, just bring it. We'll show you what you have to invest the money. It should be the problem that they will go to Dubai over an estimated $18 billion worth of properties
and build shopping mall. They'll build shopping mall.
The only thing they know how to do is to buy property, change dollar to cash, and hide under their bed. Doesn't make sense.
Well, thanks for that. I think we can call it a day. We've really been nearly 2 hours and 30 minutes talking around Nigeria. I mean, really, if you look at the topic, we're talking about gold, the dollar and the Naira. But if you look at it critically, it's an asset allocation space. And we're trying to ask you, how do you feel? Do you feel that the country is getting better? Do you feel the US is getting better? Or do you feel you just want to log out of investing and hide your money in gold, which is more or less an insurance or safe asset? It's been mixed reactions. I'm happy that what I've heard is diversification. Nobody has said I'm going to do 100% in dollar or Naira or gold. But the key message is diversification. Gold is going up. We talked about the reasons why. If you want to buy gold, be careful not to go and borrow and buy, because we don't know where the end of the music is going to be. You don't want to be leveraged, buying an asset that is leveraging up in momentum. And then when the music stops, you are holding leverage and an asset you cannot sell at the price that you bought it at that high price. So you've got to be street smart in this. If you don't know what to do, de-risk, stay where you are, diversify, and play it out. Things are never going to be as bad as they always say. Things always look, worse when you hear it on TV, but you've got to stick with your strategy. Also, we'll talk about Nigeria. We've said lots of opportunities in Nigeria. We'll have the gold in Zamfara and Kebbi. I mentioned those two states because of the states where we're not tapping the gold. They were not sure at least we're tapping them, but those two states were really not. If we're able to corral and tap that gold, that adds to our reserves, that adds to the value of Naira, that also creates jobs, 250,000 jobs in that area, quoting the former President Buhari. So it's something that we should be doing as part of a front burner approach to fighting insurgency and poverty in the Northwest specifically, and of course in North in general. We've got to get more aggressive. We heard about revenues are going to come in. We've also expressed the fears about if we will spend properly because elections are coming. If we can get all these revenues and spend properly, Nigeria was already at 813 billion. We're already at the top 20 economies in the world. We achieved that in 2014. Then we had the oil crash. We had all those fuel subsidy, whatever, and it pulled us back. Now we're coming from about $300 million. We want to go back to at least 800, then at least shoot for that $1 trillion economy. It's not impossible, We can get there, but we've got to be a bit more planned, a bit more central, and I think it's achievable. So thanks for all the folks that have hopped in to speak today. I really do appreciate you. Olumide, thanks again for being there as usual. And we'll see you guys again next week. I won't bring on that topic where we talk and learn as well, guys. We're here, of course, every Sunday, 7:30, 7 o'clock West African time, talking money, the economics, and politics. I appreciate you guys for hopping in to try to build us again. Thank you so much, guys. You guys take care of yourselves, and bye.